o'clock, and Dr. Yin said to go ahead and start without her, so we're going to call to order the November 10th work session. And this evening we have Mr. Mike Reuter here to share financial forecast information with us. And we're going to try to adjourn by 5:45 to get everything moved around for the regular meeting. So
Okay.
take it away.
All right, great. Good to see everyone, and been a while since I've been here. I don't think I've been in this room yet, but it's a nice setup here. So thank you. So I'm going to start actually with some material that was prepared by Policy Analytics. Policy Analytics is a group in the state that has been doing parcel by parcel analysis for a number of districts throughout the state. And they do a really good job at it. And so what I want to focus on in particular is Senate Bill 1 that was passed this last legislative session and how that's going to impact our future revenue as it relates to the referendum. That's probably going to be your most pressing decision in terms of your financial forecast coming up. And we'll talk a little bit about the finances of it, what it looks like in the forecast, but also just the timeline, thinking through when is the right time to potentially rerun the referendum in the next, potentially next municipal election. So this first slide, Windows K. Oh, let's see here, Windows K. Boardroom. Is it thinking?
Oh, boardroom, yes. Right there, yeah.
Let's see.
And then did you click it?
Yes. It looks like it's thinking on
There
mine.
it goes. Should go.
Well, I had it.
It says
I
it's
had
boardroom.
it, and then there, maybe it's connecting now.
There it goes. Yeah.
If your screen is asleep, it'll time out.
So while that's thinking, I'm going to start off with a few comments about the legislative session and kind of just recap on a big picture. It was probably one of the most difficult legislative sessions that I had ever experienced. I've been doing this a long time. And I would start off by saying, there was a version that came out of the Senate with the governor's proposal that included some pretty steep property tax cuts that was included in his campaign, that he was going to reduce property taxes, which was pretty steep and had no replacement revenue in it. Then the senators, which I know were negotiating with the governor's office, were working on their own proposal, and they weren't necessarily rewinding property taxes, but they were trying to limit future property taxes. And in the first year, actually allowing zero increase in that levy, and then going 1% the second year, 2% the third year. And so it was really going to impact, your ability to keep up with inflation. It too did not have any replacement revenue in it. It was purely going to be a reduction in your future revenues. Then it flipped over to the House, and Representative Thompson, who's the chair of House Ways and Means, had been working on a pretty significant piece of legislation that included property tax reform, but also included reform to local option income tax. Now, you're not directly impacted by local option income tax. It affects mostly the cities and towns and counties, townships, and libraries. But nevertheless, it was a complicated piece of legislation, and it was still not enough, though, enough reform for the governor. And what they ended up doing is inserting a homestead credit into that bill. And so they essentially adopted Representative Thompson's proposal, but then they increased it by putting this new credit in. I'm going to talk a little bit about that credit and how much it's going to cost the district. But that's really how they got it over the finish line. is with this new credit that will go into effect in 2026. And I would say the beginning of the session felt like a train. It felt like things were, you didn't have a lot of room to negotiate. And it finished like a train. When it got through, there were no committee meetings. It was passed and it went to the governor's office, and it was put in motion. And it took the consultants, a lot of professionals that work in this industry, a while to peel that onion back to see what this was really going to look like. And so I think most people have a better handle on it now. And as time progresses, we're getting more and more information. Again, policy analytics, they actually do work for the state. They do work for the legislative body. They work with Dr. DeBoer, for those of you who know who Dr. DeBoer is, the local resident here. They work in the legislative process. And so they did analysis for West Lafayette and drilled down into that data. And this is not their full report, but what I try to do is pick out the pieces that were relative to the referendum renewal. And so the things they focused on were the deductions, what's called the supplemental homestead deduction. So today, in 2025, there is a standard $48,000 deduction with an additional 37.5% supplemental deduction. And over time, between now and 2031, that standard deduction goes away, but the supplemental deduction is going to increase from 37.5% to 66.7% by the year 2031. And so I use this example as nice round math, but if you have a $300,000 home, by the year 2031, you'll only be paying on $100,000 of assessed valuation. And so that is going to take a large part of the tax base away, your ability from what you collect taxes. But they didn't stop there. They also introduced a new deduction for rental property. And rental property in 2000 does not have a deduction, but it will begin in 2026 starting at 6% and will increase to 33.3% by the year 2031. Another big hit to the tax base, and in particular to your referendum tax base, because your TIF district that exists includes a lot of rental property. And so that property will get that slowly, thank you for doing that, I'll miss that. It's slowly going to get that deduction going forward. So, so looking up here at the screen, the actual last 10 years AV increase, this is net AV, okay? This is not including the TIF area. Oh, let's see, Sean did it. Let me try to get that out of the way. There we go. The last 10 years, your average net AV has been going up 3.3%. That's really been nice, steady growth. Now, some of the larger increases happened in the last 2 to 3 years, but on average, it was 3.3%. This year, the net AV only increased 1.6%, and part of that is because of the supplemental homestead deduction increasing this next year. And this is the most important part, in that the next 5-year average, we're expecting to see a 4.4% decrease each year in that tax base. And so a lot of that's to do with these new deductions. They also change business personal property and what is reported. Previously, they had anyone with $80,000 or more in personal property would have to report. Starting in 2027, that number has been raised to $2 million, which eliminates a large portion of your filers of business personal property. And so that too is going to erode at that tax base. That actually takes effect in 2027, and it kind of hits all at once. They originally were going to phase it in $1 million and then $2 million, but they didn't have enough time to do the $1 million, so it's just all going to fall into 2027. But if you look over here at this far left bar graph, in 2025, right now, we lose about $500 million in that in the supplemental homestead deduction. But you can see by the year 2035, that is doubling from what we're currently deducting. And then you can see right next to it the 2% cap deduction being zero in 2025, and by the year 2035, that we're losing $629 million there. So those are big deductions that are impacting our ability to collect property taxes. And this graph on the top here, I think, gives a good illustration. This top line represents the gross of the AV as it grew. And you can see that there's very little gap between that gross AV and that net AV between the light blue line. But then you can see here that in the future how big that gap is growing, and it's because of the increasing in that supplemental deduction and the increase in the deduction for the 2% class. This doesn't really apply to you, but farmers are also now getting this deduction. I mean, you don't have much farm ground left in your taxing district, but that 2% category is really farm ground and apartments. Apartments obviously are directly impacting you. So that somewhat explains what you're going to see in terms of our referendum loss. Your referendum is a rate-driven fund, and so that declining assessed valuation is going to produce less revenue into the foreseeable future. The next page here. I think this really highlights what it's going to look like, because on the left here it shows your historical information, and including 2026, this is your net AV that went up 1.6%. But look in 27, that we're actually going to see a 7.3% decrease in that net assessed valuation due to all those changes. And it's more in the year 2027 again, because that business personal property all takes effect in that first year. And then you can see it gets down to 4.4, 3.7, 3.6, et cetera. And it's not until the year 2032 then where we start to see growth in the assessed valuation again. This page represents what we currently lose to what's called the circuit breaker. And just a reminder what circuit breaker is, if you have a home, you have a 1% cap on your property, no matter what the value is. So again, the $300,000 home, 1%, you have a $3,000 cap on that. The only way you get beyond that cap is if you have a referendum, and then that money goes on top of that. But this dark blue bar represents what we're currently losing to the circuit breaker. And interesting enough, because they're increasing that supplemental deduction, there will actually be fewer properties that hit the circuit breaker in the year 2026. But then it starts to climb again back through 27 and 28. And then it starts to decline again in those future years. But there are two new pieces in here that I mentioned, and that is the homestead credit. The homestead credit is 10% of the tax bill, or no more than $300. So again, using the $300,000 home, If they were at 1%, the maximum they're going to pay is $3,000, but then now they'll get an additional $300 credit on that. So they'd actually be paying $2,700. And so that is a pure loss of revenue. It impacted schools, cities, towns, counties, townships, and libraries. And in your case, you can see that you're going to lose between those two bars. You're going to lose $195,000 in the debt service fund and $130,000 in the operations fund. And that doesn't go away. Now, the good news, that doesn't grow a whole lot. It's a little bit different than circuit breaker. It's less volatile, but it will be in place going forward. And that will be one of the questions that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Do we want to potentially raise the referendum rate up to make up for that? And so that would be an option to you. The cities and towns and counties and townships, they have a little bit different method. They could actually raise local option income tax to make up for some of that change. I would also describe it's truly a shift from property tax to income taxes, this model. But in your case, you don't have local option income tax. And there are a few schools that actually do go get local option income tax, and that's going away for them too as part of that reform. But what I also want to highlight is this is an anticipated change. There was a lot of change, but I think this might have been one that was an oversight in that right now, the loss of that homestead credit is shared between the debt service and operations fund. But I'm anticipating in this next legislative session that they're going to clarify that and that it will all be taken, the loss will all be taken in your operations fund. I don't think it was intended for the debt fund to take it, because what would happen is if you lose those dollars in the debt fund, you would raise the rate up just to make up for it. And this is property tax reform. They're trying to get property taxes down. That'd be, that was not the intent. And right now, we take all of the circuit breaker loss in the debt, or in our operating fund, our operations fund. And so that wasn't always like that either. At one time, we used to take some of the loss in the debt fund and some of the loss in the operations fund. But in 26, that is the case. We are going to be able to take some of that loss in the debt fund and not hit the operations. But I would anticipate that in future years, so that we're going to have to eat all of that. And anything that you eat in the operations fund means it has more pressure from the education fund to transfer dollars to it to make up for it. So, okay. So this will be one of the questions we circle back to here in a little bit. The next page, I think this is another good visual, and I'm going to talk more about this when I get into the PowerPoint. But in the year 2026, our referendum rate is anticipated to generate $8,718,000 in this first year. But you can see then, as that, with that 37-cent rate, you can see that as that AV declines by the year 2031, you're only collecting $7.3 million at a time when you need that number to grow to keep up with the cost of living. And so that's another model I ran for you to show you, what do we need? What do we think we need? Not what are we going to get, but how much more would we need to keep pace? So again, your referendum was approved in 2023. It's currently at 37 cents. And the question is, by the way, this conversation is in lots of school districts right now. I had a meeting today at noon, and it was about the school referendum. A lot of schools are preparing to rerun referendums in this next calendar year in 2026. It can only be run in general elections now. It's different than before, where we used to be able to run special referendums in off years. Now it has to be run in a general election year. And so in this case, you can only run it in 2026 or 2028. And I think a lot of schools are thinking about running it in 26 because it gives them more leeway if it doesn't go well, if the referendum renewal did not go well, it gives them another shot at it then in 2028 without getting too far down the line. So again, those that have referendums are having this very conversation, and I think you'll see a lot of them running those in 2026. Now, we asked Policy Analytics just to run this as a hypothetical, in that we said, all right, the light blue graph represents, what it looks like with the projected assessed valuation, but what would it look like if we ran the rate at 46 cents, just hypothetically? And you can see that by the year 2031, then we'd be slightly more than $9 million. I'm not sure that's quite enough, to be real frank. You're going to see in a moment some modeling of what you might actually need. And the last slide of Policy Analytics, then I'm going to move on to the PowerPoint. We talked about that $300 credit. This is going to be confusing to homeowners because they're expecting their property taxes to decline, but that may not be true because it depends on what happens with their assessed valuation. If their values of their home went up, that is going to generate a higher tax bill, and that credit may only go to help reducing that increase. And so that might be a point of confusion when people get their tax bills in 2026 and they look at it and go, well, it didn't go down like it was promised. But it may, now if their assessed valuation remained flat, they would see a reduction. But a lot of people saw increases in their assessments again this last year, and it will likely eat up some of that credit. So what I've tried to do now is, I'm going to go to the PowerPoint, is I've tried to break your decision down into 4 questions. And when you're trying to arrive at what is the right rate for West Lafayette. And I will tell you that it's not the same for all school districts. It depends on the makeup of the school district and how they're impacted. Everybody is being impacted differently. I mean, there's this property tax reduction happening to everyone, but it depends on the makeup of the district. Some small rural schools that rely on farm ground, they really got hit this year with it too. So each one's unique, but in your case, I think that we've narrowed it down to 4 questions when you're trying to get what rate should we run that fits our situation. And the first question, which is the biggest one in my mind, is should we rerun the referendum and make up for the loss? I think you're going to find that almost everyone with a referendum is going to do that. But then the question is, how much? How much should we raise the rate to make up for that? And so again, this is all based on Senate Bill 1. But right now in 2026, we're expected to collect about $8.7 million in property tax from that referendum. What I did, this is a little bit different modeling. What I did, I thought, well, what if we compounded that, if we increased that number 3% each year compounded between now and 2031, 3% being an assumption that we would need 3% to keep up with the cost of living. And obviously be able to pay for teacher raises and compensation going forward. If your revenue's doing this, if we're going to lose revenue, there is no money for raises. So what is the right amount that we should be asking for in the referendum and expecting that referendum levy to increase? And as a reminder, remember that first chart I showed you, your average assessed valuation over the last 10 years was 3.3%. Okay, so if that were to hold true, you would have seen referendum dollars on average increasing about 3.3%. All I did is I took the current referendum levy and compounded it by 3% to 2031. And what you see here is that's it's a little better than $10 million that you would need to keep up with that cost of living. Right now, we know 37 cents, the rate we have right now, times the 2031 AV is only going to generate 7.3 million. And so that's a differential of almost $2.8 million that we would need to make up. So what I did is I took the $10 million divided by the projected AV of 2031, and then that would call for a rate of 0.5115. Now, keep in mind, that sounds like a large increase, but keep in mind what the homeowners' assessments are doing. Their assessments are going down. You might be raising the rate, but their assessments are going down. You're not necessarily asking for a lot more money. You're asking for, should we keep up with inflation? That is a decision you're going to have to make as a board, is what is the right amount we need to expect by the year 2031. I use 3%. You might tell me to run a model of something different. Today is just conversation. You might want to see a different model than 3%. You might want to see 4%. The reason I throw out 4 is that's what the legislators have been allowing your operations fund to grow by. Your operations fund levy has been growing by 4% the last 3 years. So 3% is actually conservative, but you can see what 3% calls for. That's a $10 million number. It's a pretty big number out there. Oh, shoot, Sean, open it, listen, there we go. I got it, that's all right.
Am I going to stop your flow if I ask a question?
No, feel free.
So with all that you just said, are we still constrained by state law with the language that we would have to use if we ran a referendum?
They have prescribed the language. I would say they may have made some improvements on that. But here's where that's a good question. Here's where it's going to get confusing. We don't need that $10 million number today, nor will we need the 51-cent rate in the year 2027. We would be asking the community to approve a rate high enough to generate what we're going to need in the year 2031. You would likely just take the levy of 2026 and increase it by 3%, and then whatever the AV is, it would generate a rate something less than the 51 cents. It would not be 51 cents until the year 2031. That will be the approach of a lot of districts going forward. In the past, we've gone out with a rate, and the rate is the rate. It stays that way for 8 years. In this case, this would be a different messaging in that we have to set that rate high enough, because if we ran the referendum rate just for 27, we wouldn't be setting it high enough for the year 2031. So there have been some districts that have been successful with this in the past. They do it. They've been doing it now. Speedway Schools has been doing this for years. They've been asking the community to approve a 50-cent rate, but they never collect it. They never use it all. And even if you came to the conclusion 51 cents is your right rate, I would tell you for your first year that you would say to the community, yes, that's 51 cents, but we promise you that we're not going to collect more than 3% new money in the year 2027. And the rate will go up because the AV is going down, but that you would not fully utilize that 51 cents until the year 2031. Does that make sense?
It's okay.
Totally off my game right now. There's a lot of schools who are, they're going to struggle. They have struggled to pass a referendum. They don't have the community support that we have had. This is going to be catastrophic to them. Is there any sense, and you said in like a train, out like a train. My guess is there are some legislators that really didn't understand the impact of what they were voting for. Is there any sense that they will revisit some of these things and soften them?
That's a good question. And I would describe what they passed is wading into the water. If you think about what they've done, they didn't slam these deductions in 2026. They spread them out between now and 2031. And there are a lot of legislative sessions between now and then. And I don't think you're going to be one of them. I think you'll be more fortunate. You're going to be able to weather probably a little better than most. But there are going to be some districts that really hit the wall. And it will probably take the right district and the wrong legislator. And I'm going, wait a minute, we didn't mean for that to happen. And so there are a lot of legislative sessions for adjustment along the way. Maybe we don't get to the 66.7%. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think they designed it this way intentionally, is that they can kind of see how this is going to play out. In this next legislative session, I do not anticipate a lot of change to this property tax structure, because we're just getting into it in the year 2026, and 2026 doesn't even feel that different from 25. It's after that where it really starts to kick in. And so Representative Thompson has also been out there saying, don't expect major changes to what's been passed. On the local option income tax side, I do anticipate a lot of conversation in this next short session about that. Now, that doesn't impact you directly. You have some property tax relief from LIT, but you don't control any of that. So again, I think we're kind of wading into the water on this, but you can always collect less, right? But once you pass that rate, if you decide to run 26, you can't go higher than that unless you run it again. Now, like you said, you've been very fortunate that your community has been supportive of your school district, and you've had a good success rate. So I think you'll have an easier time than most. It will be a confusing message that we're asking for 51 cents or whatever we decide the rate is, but we're not going to collect it all. That will be a new twist to the messaging.
Mike, one more question.
Sure.
Wasn't there legislation to limit how often people could run referendums or schools could run referendums, and did that pass? I don't remember.
There is a period for which you can't rerun them,
Uh-huh.
but in your case, you have one in place.
Okay.
If you
So-
ran it and you were unsuccessful, it does not eliminate your 37 cents. There are some that are unsuccessful, capital referendums that are unsuccessful, and there's a waiting period before they can rerun those.
Got it. Okay.
But in your case, your scenario right now, it does not kill. You do not risk your 37 cents if you were to run a referendum in 26.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Next question is, should we raise the referendum rate if we decide to no longer take transfer students? And so we currently have 160 students enrolled. The basic grant this year, now this is hypothetical if it was all in place this year, okay? I know that you would never just shut it off. Probably if you did, it would probably be a phase out of some sort. But I wanted to show you, if this were in place today, what would be a reasonable expectation for the referendum rate to make up for that change? And so I attempted that. Again, this is just a scenario. I'm not saying this is how it plays out, but we currently have 160 students. Our per pupil amount is $7,185. So the potential loss of revenue is $1,149,600. And the current assessed valuation, that if we had that in place today, that we got rid of the 160 students and we didn't cut any expense, part two of that, I think you will cut expense. If you lose that many students, you would cut some expense. But if you didn't cut any expense, you would need an additional 0.0489. So in other words, you didn't want to change anything, but if we lifted 160 students out, we would need another 0.0489. But I don't know that that's realistic, that if you did not accept transfer students, I think you would be able to over time reduce some expense with that. You'd probably reduce some teaching positions because you would not need as many teachers with fewer students. But I just hypothetically again said, all right, well, what if we could reduce 50% of that cost? That's roughly 5 teachers, right? So if we reduce 50% of that cost, realistically, then we would need to add 0.0245 to the rate. So again, just hypothetical, but I think this is one of those questions, and I know you're working on a survey, and I think the timing of that's good. Again, we're not looking for any answers or any decisions tonight. This is just to get you in the direction of what we probably need to make a decision by the end of February, what we think that rate is. And I'll go through that timeline with you in a little bit as well. So just hypothetically, that today we would need another 0.0245 on top of the 37 cents we have today. That's if we cut 50% of the cost. The second question, or third question, this is the third question for you. Should we raise the referendum rate to make up for our declining enrollment? because your enrollment has been declining and is projected. I'm not a demographer, but based on the trends that I'm seeing in terms of kindergarten classes and your senior classes moving through, it looks like that you're going to continue to lose some enrollment. That's not unique to you. There are lots of districts declining in enrollment. I always use Hamilton Southeastern because that's where I came from. You know, it was a growing district, 1,000 kids a year. They lost 400 kids this year because of the demographics look different. They're seniors. The seniors are pushing out, and the elementary kids coming in are not replacing those cohorts. And it's not because they're not growing. I mean, you think of that areas, they're still growing, but those cohorts moving through, it takes a lot of new homes to replace that. And so they're going through, they opened their enrollment and still declined 400 kids. So, yeah, so it's a different demographic happening in that area. But my question again here is, all right, what if we, again, similar to the transfer tuition students, hypothetically, let's say we anticipate we're going to lose another 150 kids over the period of time between now and 2031. $7,185 per pupil, we stand to lose $1,077,000 in that funding formula on today's dollars. And so today's rate would need to be 0.0458 higher if those kids were gone today. Again, though, the very last bar there, I think if you did lose 160 kids, you would probably be, again, reducing expense. There's some costs you can't reduce, right? Your principal, your art, your music, your PE, your librarians, you can't cut some of those costs. Counselors, you know, there's certain things you can't cut, but you would be able to cut to a point with fewer kids. But again, I just used 50%. Let's say, assume we could reduce it by 50%. So we'd need another 0.0229 on today's rate if we were 150 kids less than where we are today. The last question then is what I touched on earlier, is the new credit, the new homestead credit. This would be an opportunity if you did not want to give those dollars up, that you could raise the referendum rate to make up for that. Now, this is a little bit different, okay? There's no cost reduction for this. This is just a pure loss. And so in 26, we're going to lose $325,000 to this new credit. Now, today, we're going to lose some of that to the debt fund and some of it to the operations fund. But I'm anticipating that's all going to hit the operations fund next year. So again, the operations fund is already running very tight and thin. So that'd be a pretty big hit. Now, so there's no dividing here. We would need, another 0.0138 of a rate to make up for that. So again, in addition to that 37 cents, we would need a higher rate to make up that credit. Now what I did is, all right, there's those 4 questions. Make up for Senate Bill 1, no transfer students, declining enrollment, loss of homestead credit. If all those things were true today, our referendum rate we'd need a rate of 0.4312 of a rate versus the 37 cents. But what I did then, you've already seen the 51 cents, the 51.15 cent rate. That's what it would need to be by the year 2031. But then I did the same thing with the transfer tuition students and the declining enrollment. I trended those numbers up by 3% compounded each year. And so those rates obviously would need to be higher than what they are today, because that assessed valuation is going to be less. And so it'd be 0.0328 and 0.0308. Now, the next line, the loss of the homestead credit, doesn't trend up quite as high as those others, because that's not a compounding number. That number's fairly flat going forward. So in that case, it goes from 0.0138 to 0.0165. And it's a pretty big rate, right? 0.5916. We're at 37 cents right now, but if you were to play all those out hypothetically, that's what it would be looking like right now. So I think those are the 4 questions you need to be thinking about as a district. How much money do we need? in our referendum fund between now and 2031. And the no transfer students, the declining enrollment, and the loss of the homestead credit. Now, you can pick and plug, right? You don't have to make, those don't all have to be yeses. You say yes to that one and no to that one, or change the assumptions in it. I was just trying to play something out for you that would give you some idea of what it would look like to try and make yourselves whole with those decisions in place.
And so if there's a $300,000 house in the district, the assessed value won't be more than a third. So it would be 100,000. I did that on purpose because math.
Correct.
So they would be paying an additional $591 a year? No, I'm doing that so wrong. How do you?
Yeah, because they're paying some of it now. So
And it would be an additional
Yeah.
22 cents.
So that rate, the 37 cents today, would slowly increase to 0.5916. At the same time, their deductions would be making their tax base lower over that period of time.
So we hope it would it would break even.
I need to still do that. I
Uh-huh.
apologize. I still need to create some examples for you that would show you, like, here's today what people are going to pay in 2026. And we're going to have real numbers. We don't have real numbers for 26 yet. We're getting close. And we will have those numbers before you have to make a decision on this, that we'll be able to create a real tax bill for 26 and then a hypothetical tax bill for 2031. And we would likely trend that assessed valuation up on that house too, assuming that it's going to grow, the value is going to grow by
3%.
3.3%. That's been your 10-year average.
Okay.
And then create a couple of real examples. I apologize, I haven't gotten that done
No,
yet,
that's a lot of math.
Yeah.
I haven't either.
but it's not going to be as bad as you might think it would
Okay,
be.
so it's not going to go like
Yeah.
this, it's going to go like this because the assessed value
Yeah,
is
it will go up
decreased.
some, but it won't be straight up.
That's good.
Yeah,
That will be more
Yeah.
popular.
that's right.
The messaging on this is going to be very complicated.
It is. And that's a great point. I've said this to a lot of my clients. They took a fairly complicated system before and they doubled down on it. I mean, it has really gotten complicated in trying to explain, how this all works. So what would be your timeline? I think we're still okay. Couple more minutes for
Couple
timeline?
more minutes.
Okay. What is the referendum timeline? Again, your referendum rate, your 37 cents, is in place till the year 2032. So you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. You're going to keep 37 cents, but just know that revenue is going to work in the opposite direction of your needs. Again, referendums are only in general election years, and so 2026 and 28 are your next opportunities. This is, again, this is just my opinion. I think I think you should try to make this as soon as you can after the session closes. Back to Mrs. Witt's comment about, will the legislative session change any of this? Possibly. I don't think they will on this side of it, but it's possible we could see more change. And so I'd hate to make, you wouldn't want to make a decision before we get past that session. So everyone is anticipating, they have until, I believe, March 16th to be done, but I think everyone's anticipating that they're going to be done by the end of February. So I would recommend that you try to position yourself to make that decision on the referendum rate, what you want to communicate to your referendum message, so that you can get out and get as much time communicating it before you have to run the referendum in November. Technically, you don't have to pass a referendum rate until early July. That would be your drop dead deadline if you wanted to get it on the 2026 ballot in November. You would need to have made that decision by early July. But sooner is better because you have more time to communicate what's happened. And it is obviously, as you've already pointed out, it's a confusing message, what we're going to be trying to explain going forward.
Do you have a sense of the cost of running a referendum? Is that price tag increased from the last time we did it, I guess, is my
Good
question.
I don't have a good handle on that right now, what it would cost. Now, you wouldn't have any election expense because it's being run on a regular election cycle. But I would have to go back and look, see what you guys spent on the last one. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, you could,
That sounds like you're volunteering, David.
legally, I want to clarify, legally, you would need to make that decision by early July, to pass your final resolution on it. But communicating what I would call a listening tour, you're like, here's what we're thinking, here's the rate we're going out for, and here's why, here's the questions that how we came to this conclusion.
I have a quick question, a couple questions. Begin about the first slides, not this one, regarding the AVs. So the 3.3 is the last historical
10-year.
growth. Yeah, so is that include the TIF or you just exclude the TIF, just residence area, or just include pretty much everything?
That includes everything. That is the
Everything,
net AV. That is the net.
The
AV.
net AV, taxable AV is not real, the total.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the total AV increases that you'd been seeing.
And then you,
Now, good question though, because it also leads me to another thought. Michelle had shared with me that there is more development coming in that TIF district.
yes.
And
but-
so you could potentially benefit from that. I mean, in that you as the board would be deciding each year what that referendum rate needs to be. So if suddenly we get a big pop on a bunch of commercial development, you could decide, hey, well, we don't need that rate to be as high. So it would be an annual thing that the administration would be bringing you a recommendation to the board, that the board would ultimately decide each year what that referendum rate needs to be. We'll be trying to explain to the community that we're asking you for a maximum rate, not what we intend to collect even in the year 2027.
Okay, so back to you, just a question, are you talking about, say, normally we go to referendum, basically we say up to such numbers. So as you said, is that the common practice in Indiana? So school decide every year how much they will
It's
collect
not
from the
common,
rent?
but I think it will be very common in this next cycle. I think most districts are going to be asking for a much higher rate on their referendum renewal than what they intend to collect in the year 2027 or 28 or 29. It wouldn't be to the year 2031.
Okay,
People are trying to figure out what is our need? What, as you're trying to determine salary increases, this plays into that. If we don't have a higher rate, we're going to have less money to
but
allocate.
my question, in practice, these kind of things in next 5 years, they gradually reduce that 48,000 things every year, they cost say
Right.
10,000 or something, but they increase the percentage. So this kind of uncertainty is very difficult to calculate how much, the taxable AVs we can use. So we are not with kind of, every year we have to guess, what kind of rate we are going to use. We don't want to ruin the community, collect a lot of monies, and we also want to keep enough things. So, but you think that, but technically it's still doable, right? It's probably.
Yeah, it is doable. Like I said, it's building trust with the community.
Yeah, that's
And
what
it's
I'm
big-
saying.
You have to build the trust of the community, and that's why I was suggesting, like, your first year, you pass this referendum rate. But in your first year, you say, but we're not going to get a levy more than 3% more than we did last year. We are only going to allow that levy to increase 3%.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, another question regarding this so-called 10% up to 300 so-called credit things. So you estimate about 300,000 something. This credit will be shared by other local government. So did you take that into consideration?
Yes,
Okay.
that's your portion of that.
Our portion, so
Yeah,
that, so
your
that's
por-
estimate, okay.
that's policy, that's what they estimated your portion of the loss to be.
Something
It is
like
much
around-
bigger than that. The cities and towns and counties, townships and libraries will all
Yeah, they
share.
share
some of-
that
They
300.
will also have
Okay.
loss in addition to that.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
How much success has there been in the past of any government district, school district or otherwise, running a referendum where the rate that the taxpayers are voting for isn't defined?
I know of two, and that's Speedway and Perry Township in Marion County has always had, their rate was 42.4212, and they've not collected it all. Now, they didn't leave a lot on the table, but they've not collected all of it. And Speedway is another district. The majority today ran a referendum rate fixed, assuming the assessed valuation would continue to grow. And that fit with the modeling of cost of inflation going forward. This is a different model now. We're not going to get cost of inflation. We're going to be losing dollars to these higher deductions.
George, initially when we ran, we did run that way. We did run not to exceed rate. And then we actually had a lot of conversation about, not this last one, but the one prior, about pushing up to 43 cents. That number 43 cents is really interesting to me because we had a lot of conversation about that not to exceed, and then decided that, and we're very open with the community, that we were going to do the best we could. We weren't going to take that space. So to some degree, there'd be some people in the community who know that we said, no, we're not going to play that float game with you. So we will be changing, if we do this, we would be changing that structure.
I hate to cut us. Can you stay and maybe do a few more questions at the beginning of the next meeting?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Have a seat. You're always a ray of sunshine.
Oh.
Mike, thank you very much.
It's a gloom and doom message. I apologize.
That's all right. It's 5:52. Let's adjourn the work session. November 10th, regular meeting of the West Lafayette Board of Trustees. I'm going to bump our special recognitions and highlights a little bit so that we can invite Mr. Roy back up to get grilled by the Sorry. I wanted to give you a chance to ask any more questions since I hadn't had everyone else. So, oh, I thought it was on. Down. Oh, there's the light. Okay. So I called to order the Board of Trustees at 6:01, and I invited Mr. Reuter back up to answer any questions that are lingering from the work session. Does anyone, Yue, go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing all the information. That's very helpful, as always. And I have some questions about the estimation. And so I feel there are some assumptions for those estimations. For example, and we kind of assume if we close the district and people will just stay and we won't have some, for example, more within district enrollment. Right now, the ADM has two parts, right? The within district enrollment and the transfers. So based on my observation, I feel since we start to be more open after COVID to take pretty much all transfers and whoever request, and more people actually moved out, and for bigger, cheaper, newer houses, and without paying the extra referendum. So I just feel, just based on my observation, I really don't have the complete data, but I wonder whether we make it a policy to keep the district open completely, and more people actually will be encouraged to move out. And so, but on the other hand, if we close or not taking new transfers, then people will be encouraged to stay, or even the new people, newcomers will buy houses in the district. For example, you probably know the SK company is coming, and so the new families probably will choose to live in the district rather than live elsewhere and transfer their kids in. And so that's why I feel those numbers are based on kind of the assumption of people will not, those within enrollment will not change, but maybe, I don't know for sure, but that might be
Right.
something different. Another is, okay, I just see this whole thing is a dynamic. And so based on this move out pattern, maybe the assessment value will also change, because if more people want to move in, the economics 101, the price of the houses is determined by the supply and the demands, right? So if more people want to move in, then the property value will increase. Even
Dr. Yin, is there a question or?
yeah, yes,
Okay.
I'm just
Sorry,
I'm just talking.
I know.
So so my point is that sounds like based on assumption that, okay, given the current number, assuming no other changes will occur, right? Another thing is like on this page, we assume that all the 160 transfer students, if we don't have them, and by that time, and that's an estimation. But in reality, even if we decided to close the district, we still keep the current transfers. So we probably, by 2031, we only lose half of the transfers. And so I feel that's another.
Yeah, those are good points, and I did it like this to show you hypothetically if those were all effective. Not necessarily are those the assumptions, but also keep in mind that we're asking for a maximum rate. And let's say hypothetically that we said no transfer students, and then enrollment started to increase, then we wouldn't have to collect anything for the declining enrollment piece. You see what I'm saying? So if that were true that you described, that if we don't allow enrollments, transfer enrollments, and it drives up our base enrollment,
Yes.
then we wouldn't have to collect for that declining enrollment amount.
Right. And yeah, another practical issue, I guess, might be just based on the feedback I received so far, it might be a hard sell if we tell the residents, okay, we open the district at same time, please pay more referendum. So it's just practically speaking, and people say, hey, how comes they can transfer in without paying this even higher referendum? So I wonder, but on the same time, surely we don't want to cut programs or reduce the number of teachers, all that. No, we don't want to do that. But I just wonder whether there will be some alternative ways, for example, whether we can test it a little bit to see, let's say we just for now close it for several years to see whether people start to move in, and especially waiting for the SK people to move in a lot, and our base enrollment, whether the base enrollment will increase, so that way we don't rely on transfers as we did before. I don't know. And also another question I have is about the typical referendum rate across the state, and so whether people will feel, oh, this is a appropriate rate for us. And my last question will be, based on your experience, whether schools take, for example, international students and charge a high price to compensate the public education, the fund needed for public education. So I know some of the schools does like a COCOMO, but I don't know how common it is, whether it's possible at all, let's say, to take some international student and charge the high price, for example, 20,000 per year, which will be worth 3 transfers, something like that, to compensate and supplement.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with your last question. I know a lot of districts years ago used to have a policy that would define how many students they would allow foreign exchange students to come into their district. And of course, it just obviously depends on the needs of the students coming in too. But going back to your question about transfer tuition students, I think the idea behind this is that if we don't need that much money each year annually, you would decide as a school board, like, okay, well, that piece didn't happen, or this piece did happen, but then you would be identifying each year how much new money you would need with the referendum. So this is a little different modeling than what we've done in the past, where we passed a referendum rate and the assessed valuation grew, and then we made that work. In this case, you know, the community would be giving you more trust in terms of what you do with that rate each year. Like you pointed out too, it's unlikely that if you close the district that you would lose 160 students. They would all transition out. So we just monitor how many of those students transferred out to how much money we've lost, and then we'd collect that in the referendum, or vice versa. If we don't lose 150 kids in the modeling, you know, that we only lose 10, you know, then that would change the modeling of what referendum rate each year that we'd be asking the community to do. It doesn't mean that we'd automatically go to the top of that maximum amount. So it's definitely a different strategy in approaching a referendum, and it would require the community to put more trust into the board. But I think that could be accomplished, because you could, even passing that referendum rate for the next year, say, we're not going to allow that levy, because the levy is going to be more of a conversation than about the rate. We're not going to allow that levy to go up more than 3% next year. And so those are decisions the board would make annually then. So when we come and do our budget presentation and financial updates, we'd be modeling that recommendation based on actual circumstances, because right now we have, you know, what's the right set of assumption to use, right? I mean, we don't know those answers yet. I think your community survey is great that you're doing on the transfer tuitions. You know, getting their feedback is key to that. You want to do what the community is going to support and support the referendum, right?
Rachel.
I'm just curious, I know that you have a lot of experience with different school corporations and referendums and the running of those. We keep talking a lot, I mean, it's a dynamic structure, dynamic rate setup, and I understand the value in that. We are asking the community to trust us in a way that they have not in the past, and that's a trust conversation. In your experience, is there an impact when the board is divided on that? So if to run or not to run comes down to a 4-3 vote, what is the impact on the success of the referendum, in your opinion?
And Dr. DeVore may have some statistics on that. I know he tracked a lot of those referendums. I can only tell you from experience, a 7-0 vote going into a referendum is really important. You want to be saying to the community, we're approaching you with a united front. It's a difficult message to say it's 4-3, we're coming to you for an approval. So I would highly recommend that you approach any renewal with a united front, because it sends a clear message to the community that you're all in agreement. But it is, any time you have less than 7, you're going to be lowering your chances, right?
Right. Well, I think my concern about that as well is if we're not able to come unified to ask for that rate, then what makes the community believe that we would come unified on any subsequent year in determining what that rate in practicality should be?
Right. I mean, that is where you start to build community trust. Like I mentioned earlier with Speedway, they've been doing this for years now, and Perry Township has not been collecting their maximum rate. And so that's just over time, you would build that trust. Of course, elections change things, right? You can't always guarantee it, but you start to build that trust in year one. In the year 2027, you would begin that process of explaining, like, yeah, we asked you for 59 cents, but we're only going to collect 42, so, and we have to continue to communicate that.
George, and then Daisha.
So you mentioned earlier that Hamilton Southeastern, they moved to being an open district, right? Since they did this fairly recently.
They did.
Okay. Do you have any idea or any sense about whether or not people in Hamilton Southeastern have decided to move in or out because of that decision?
I have not heard any comments like that. What I have heard, though, one of the things that they're actually seeing is there are fewer younger families that can afford the homes. And so their elementaries are declining. When I worked there from 1994 to 2019, and it was nothing but growth. We were growing. There were some years we grew 1,000 kids, and the demographics looked like a pyramid this way. And you'd push out a senior class smaller, and you bring in another big young kindergarten class. That's opposite. It's upside down now. It looks like this. They're pushing all those higher cohorts out, and they're bringing in smaller kindergarten, but they are seeing more people moving in the upper grades as those families get older and have more that they can afford a home, and their families are more established. But if you think about the younger kindergarten parents, they may not be able to afford that home in your district, being a starter family. So, yeah, the demographics in Hamilton Southeastern look much different. As I mentioned, they still lost 400 kids, even with opening enrollment. So,
Okay, Daisha.
Well, I don't know if this is actually for Mr. Reuter or Dr. Greiner, but I feel like now that we've gotten the finance information best we can with numbers, we've talked about the next step is surveying the community, helping them to decide, we're not trying to cut funding to our schools. How are we going to cover this and just collect information? So question that I have is, besides doing a survey, can we do focus groups? We've done this both with the strategic planning and Happy Hollow, and it seems like the community's been happy getting an opportunity to, besides share input through a survey, sit at the table, ask questions, share that. So my question is, can we do focus groups for community and for teachers? Because this is greatly impacting, honestly, when you said cut 50% of the teachers, that just, 5 teachers, and I thought names, and I just thought, this is big. We're not a big school district. We know our teachers, and even cutting 5 teachers just to me is very concerning. And so I want to make sure you know, there's different decisions. If they don't live in the district, true, our teachers aren't paying the referendum, and so that's different information. But I would love the teachers to be able to sit at the tables and share their input and understand what's going on, input sessions. So what, is that an option? What would a timeline look like for survey, for focus groups, input sessions, and getting this decision? Because my understanding is the hope is we're going to decide about the referendum about the end of February, beginning of March. So all this information needs to be collected before then.
So one thing we want to do, as we've talked about in Friday Notes, is get that survey out as soon as possible. So now that you've heard, we felt like that the board may have additional thoughts on the survey. And so if we can get that sooner rather than later, we'd love to get that out by the end of the week or sometime next week. And with regard to focus groups, you mentioned that we've done that with both Happy Hollow after the survey, and we've done that with the strategic planning. I think we could schedule something. We just have to talk about what you as a board want that to look like. And together we could absolutely work to get additional information in addition to the survey results and the information that we would get from the survey.
So does that mean like the next chance that we talk about it is the December meeting? Are we going to have a work session? Like, how do we keep this ball rolling quickly now that we have this part of the information? When do we discuss it as a board?
I think you could discuss it as a board in December. I think you could discuss it as a board right now if you want to. Amy, do you want to facilitate that dialogue?
Yeah, no. So I just didn't know when we could continue this so that we could collect information as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be happy to. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Reuter? Because he drives from a great distance, so.
May I?
Sure.
Yeah, just you mentioned the district south
Speedway?
South what was the district Speedway have the open district policy. I wonder whether that district has a referendum.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Hamilton Southeastern.
Oh, okay. Do they have a referendum for their so with the referendum with the higher house price, they still choose to open the district to other district for students to transfer in?
They did.
Oh, okay.
That's a new policy for them because they were losing enrollment and they were trying to stop some of the loss.
Okay.
And they opened the enrollment. So for them, it was about efficiency, keeping, the seats full. And so it is true though, they have tuition or they have students now attending there that aren't paying the referendum. But yeah, that's a relatively new policy. I mean, within the last 2 years that they made that decision.
And in our district, before when we took transfers, we charge extra fee. But right now, with the new state law, we can't.
Right.
So is that the same for that district? So they could charge a fee, now they couldn't?
They cannot charge any
Okay.
fees. They can only include them. Yeah, they can't charge any fees for the referendum.
Okay.
Where before, your district was able to collect the tuition dollars and make up for the referendum.
Right,
Now it's just the tuition dollars.
yeah. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so Dr. Greiner and I just had a brief sidebar, and he thinks after Thanksgiving, picking a day and doing a discussion at noon and at 3, 4?
We were thinking similar to what we've done with the other two. One, if you do one like more at noon, like a virtual one, you get a different group of people, and then maybe one in the evening, like around 4, for those that want to come in person.
Would that be all right?
Now, I don't know, do we want to have, to me, it's a different conversation versus community versus teachers, just meaning, I think the teachers' questions, I anticipate, look differently, and feedback, do we just open it to teachers and community to just those two? Or do we try to say this one's more targeted, of course, anyone can go to anyone, what would be the best setup for that?
Well, we do have board teacher discussion scheduled in.
I would be up to whatever,
Yeah,
we want the board to have informed information. So our team will support, and if you wanted to do a separate teacher one, or if you wanted the teachers to be included with the community. In the past, there hasn't been a lot of community members come to the in-person one. So that might be the one where we would have the teachers come and we would schedule it at a time where after school they could come, and we wouldn't want it too far because we would want them to be able to go from school into the session and then go home to families. but I'm fine with it being separate too. It really is up to how the board feels like they can get the most information to understand all the various stakeholders with regard to input.
Yue?
I personally had the opportunity to hear the community's voice, also teachers' voice, and if possible or if appropriate at all, I think it would be helpful to have the conversation for all the community members and the teachers. Otherwise, the community members won't hear what the teachers' input. I don't know how to share that in an effective way. And another thing is, given that thank you so much for doing the focus group for the community and teachers to discuss this important issue. In that case, I wonder whether we should wait to administer the survey and to have the focus group first, because I feel, at least when I read the survey draft, I feel it's hard to describe these complicated issues in a survey. And, there are a lot of implications. Many people may not know that implication from a Word document. And so if we have the focus group, then we can talk about those implications. And, if we do one way or the other, what will be the impact?
If we want to mirror,
it'll be easier.
if we want to mirror what, how the way that Mr. Jones has carried us through the strategic plan and or Happy Hollow, I would envision us administering the survey, looking for trends, and then maybe our team and members of the board that want to give input. From there, we would get some very focused questions so that we're coming together for an hour or less, and we're focusing on topics the board needs to gather input in making that decision. I think that's the best way to keep everything truly focused in a focus group. And so I would recommend, but I'm very open, I would recommend that we would administer the survey. Our team would pull together, we'd share the raw results with you, but we would also pull together what we see as trends to help preserve board time. And then from there, develop some focus questions like what we've begun with the survey, and then take board input to get those focus questions exactly where you as a board need them. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Mr. Reuter, thank you so much for everything. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
Tread
Mr. Reuter.
carefully.
We
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Go ahead, Daisha.
So I actually agree. I think the survey being first would be helpful. I think the survey is how we're gonna reach the most of the people. So we need to make sure that it's clear and concise and as informative as we can. One thought I had about how to handle this is to do open, as whatever the teacher's timing is best for them, open that up to both teachers and the community, but watch the numbers. And if we have a very high response, set a second one so that we're not, I just want to make sure that everyone that wants to come to the table and have a voice, that they're not shut down because perchance we only have the one and we end up with a huge amount of people and they walk away frustrated that they didn't get their voice heard. So maybe we start with the recommendation of 2, but watch that RSVP number, and if needed, it's just a thought.
I think it's a great idea. That way we're, like you said, we're comforting individuals as opposed to leaving them frustrated that we want to hear their voice. So if we found out we had 150, we could absolutely divide that out and figure out how to make it more manageable. So we are very open to whatever the board needs, and we certainly want our community to feel heard too. So you're welcome.
Great. Let's return then to the original agenda and to the special recognition and highlights. And Mr. Rogers is going to share with us about his school. So welcome. Thanks for coming.
You put coach here real fast, just to the right, correct? All right, thank you, welcome. And nothing about finances in this one. As a matter of fact, we're so good, we're gonna have 2 presentations, mine and then Mr. Strode's later. So real quickly, our demographics haven't changed very much. Our enrollment, let's keep talking positive. It's gone up, only because we graduated a little bit of a smaller class and then brought in that really big 7th grade. So go junior, senior high school. Our data, that's kind of fallen off there on the bottom, but this is what we do, really what Westside does in general, what we've been talking about all over the place of why people want to be here. iLearn data, very good. SAT is really some of the best, actually the best in the state. It's dropped by 12. Don't panic about that. That's still excellent. And then our AP scores. What's amazing is when you really look at the number of exams that we take or that we give, and then the percentage of 3+ still stays really high. So we're not watering that down with the number of APs. And this also tells you, what the teachers are doing, the amount of classes, the amount of sections. So that's just really, really amazing data. And again, very unique to us. One of the highlights, this is really pretty cool, West Lafayette Student Art Initiative, I got it. They had an art show in September, and it was at the library. And so it was actually a collaborative part. We had Harrison there as well, but we have a really great art program, and I have some leaders in there. I don't, just the school has leaders in there that they really, really are trying to bring awareness and celebrate the arts, which is really cool. STEAM, right? That's the A piece. We're known for STEM, we're known for math, we're known for science, but this is another huge piece of what makes us so good and really is a great partner, honestly, in academics. This was their soft opening. They have a bigger one coming in February across the river, so stay tuned for that. Another art show, bigger, better. I'll get to this more in a minute, but this was our national merits, 17 semifinalists. You'll see 2 people in there that aren't, that's me and Dr. Greiner. Again, I think it was, help me out, was it like 10%, wasn't it? 10%. 10% of our students in that grade were semifinalists. Again, amazing stat. Okay, some goals that we've been hitting. We still continue with MTSS. Really pleased with the progression we've had over the year. Last year, we worked hard with the team and the teachers to identify pillars. These were like non-negotiables, tier 1. I may have talked about that, or you may remember that last spring. And then we've continued to have our teachers model and present in our PD, both last spring and then again this fall. This is one of the things we do in our full PD day. And then real big shout out as Joe Tylenda has joined the program with Carrie and Mary Beth. They are doing an outstanding job taking the MTSS where it was and then growing it and building it bigger and better and more efficient. So those 3 are rock stars. Mental health always is a focus for us, preventing youth suicide. And again, they were part of our fall PD. And they also, and I'll get to this in a minute, they also had a presentation on our station for 7th graders when we had our PSAT day. So a lot going into that first goal. A second one, the culture. I mentioned this last year. We were going to try to do some instructional rounds for teachers. So we had our first cohort, 7 teachers, a lot of fun, developing a framework of best practices from the Marzano High Reliable Schools, and they are just now starting to go and observe each other. Can't wait to hear about those conversations. So maybe 3 teachers go and observe 1, and then they're in a cohort of, let's say, 4, and then 3 observe 1, and then they get to meet and talk about those best practices that they see. Junior Highness, I'll jump down to the bottom. This is the leadership of Shelby Johnson, Libby Sheffield, and Mary Russell. They are fantastic, and they bring all things to this junior high. We have a lot of junior high teachers in the building, so we have a whole lot of shared junior high school, so tremendous buy-in from the teachers and the staff. They have incentives. We are working on a new 7th grade schedule, just a tweak, don't panic, just a tweak. But we need to provide time for interventions. That's a state mandate. And one of the things that we definitely are noticing is that transitional year for 7th graders, very difficult. So they've actually developed a schedule to try to put a study hall in there. And that's fantastic. And then because of all this work, I put in there the first 9 weeks, we were at an all-time low for failures. And I just think that is a testament, again, to the leaders there at the bottom and what those teachers have done in those transitional years. I'm trying, I'm clicking. Did it go?
Yeah.
Okay. Math placement. just a quick little update. We are now in our year one of that. It's really all classes, but math was a big one. We're in the evaluation process. We're able to basically what's worked, what hasn't worked, collect that data, collect that qualitative data, really, a lot of times communication with teachers and with families, and then be able to help steer and guide as families select next spring or next winter, and also continue to partner with Willis on what we were seeing as their math classes kind of changed coming into our building. So we continue to want to have partnerships and be collaborative and listen and also guide families. I know really families do trust our teachers and want to know what they think in regards to where their kid, goes when they come into 7th grade. I must be pointing in the wrong spot. Last one, huge celebration here. And again, thank you to everybody for putting this on the calendar a couple of years ago. PSAT Day. So we get this early release. Part of it is the reason why this is so important. One, you remember that picture of the 17 semifinalists, right? It's a big deal. Only 10 students were absent that day in our building. This never happens. We need to have PSAT Day. It seems like every day. Just tell them we're doing the PSAT. In that day, we also got to do our mandatory videos and education. So after the exam, we were able to do the anti-bullying, I call it child safety. And then for the 7th graders, they're not taking that PSAT. And you can see they had a lot of cool things going on. I mentioned like the preventing youth suicide had a moment there. So a whole lot of cool things the 7th graders got to do while the rest of the building was taking this test. And then everybody got the video and the training. So again, thank you for everybody and all the support and the families. I know it's not always easy to get those half days like that or early release, but I feel like we really make the most of it. And then our students get the benefit from that test. So I think that is it. That's it, isn't it?
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yes,
Couple of questions, Mr.
go
Rogers.
for it.
So one, this is more just a statement. I want to make sure that everybody on the board is aware that conversation about the PSAT Day, that really started inside a board teacher discussion a few years ago. And the teachers really led that conversation and made a really great case for it. So I want you to know that value of board teacher discussion and that decision. My question for you is, you talked about junior, senior, you said something that gave me a little bit of heartburn there for just a moment. You said that parents are really interested in knowing what the teachers think of their kids as they go in, and my question is,
Recommendation?
Well, another thing that you said is that our teachers teach a lot of different sections.
Okay.
So what that translates to me is our teachers have a lot of students. And
Yes.
if every parent wants to know how their child's doing in their class, or even if only half of them do, that sounds kind of like a full-time job to me. So I'm wondering how you anticipate balancing those things. Is there a way to do that so that there's a group? I guess my question, and I don't think you would set our teachers up to fail, but if the expectation is a whole lot of time here to communicate with parents and a whole lot of time here to educate the children, where's the balance in that for you philosophically?
Okay, so the teachers fill out like a recommendation sheet. So that's what they do. So that's something they've been doing, I think, for a long time, obviously before me. And then that's that recommendation that I was referring to that they would communicate to families. So it's not like an individual.
They're not meeting with.
No.
All
This
right.
is, and I know that the majority of our families value that recommendation right there. And then that's that conversation between them and the counselors and the family. So there's a few, right, that might disagree with that. Their kid can do this or that. And then the first line of conversation is with the counselors. So that information is really going to the counselors, but the teachers are filling that out. Does that help?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Lawrence.
Hey, Lawrence.
Yeah, quick question. It's really nice presentations, and I heard a lot of positive changes since you came here. Just quick question, just follow up. You introduced the talk about the placement.
Yes.
So if a student I mean, the counselor recommend, hey, this is the best course for you to go, and then they bring to parents and they have some discussion. In case the parents or students think, I need maybe another placement, and then the parents or student maybe talk with the counselor, and then let's say if the counselor and the teachers have disagreement, they have different opinions or perceptions about these students' placement is supposed to be. How you handle this kind of situation?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the family can choose where their kid's going to go.
Okay.
Again, most of the time, there's a whole lot of different schedules. So it's not like you skip Chem 1 to go to AP, right? So we're talking about that same level, maybe just different, that same spot, but just some different levels. But at the end of it, there's just conversation between, there's the recommendation to the counselor has a conversation with the student and the family. If there needs to be more conversation, they can, but at the end of it, the counselors do a really good job of saying, okay, this is where you're wanting, let's talk about what that does for your career, right? Or let's make sure we have a plan B, but at the end of it, that's what it is. And then the teachers do their job, which is teach what's in their room.
Okay. Yeah.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you
Okay.
answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
But my question is, I mean, that arrangement, maybe from parents' point of view, they may have some different opinions about their kids. They may have some their bias, whatever you call it. And teacher maybe have better understanding what these students need. So if this kind of procedure, do you think the teacher end up with the best placement, or maybe in other words, the placement is in the best interest of students? Or you think, I understand we have academic guidance or something, they have some schedules, the procedures, how to place the student in a right place, but it's kind of rough. But I'm just wondering in the practice, how you guys handle this kind of different perspectives.
Okay, so are you asking me how do we handle it when they disagree? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
So I'd say this, again, most of the time, when the teachers recommend, that's what the families go with. And I would say the majority of the time, the teachers know what they're doing, right?
Okay.
There are some exceptions where a family or a kid wants to challenge themselves and go to a little bit of a higher level. I've seen some teachers have rubrics as to why. They fill out a lot of information, and at the end of it, you can give the family all the information as to why I made my choice. But if the family still wants to disagree, then okay. But it's not a large amount of people that we're talking about.
So basically, the whole process still collaborative, right?
Yeah.
You have, I mean, we don't want the teacher have their expertise. We want to respect
Right.
and follow they are professional educators, and the parents, they have their opinions. So pretty much we collaborate everybody and then work together.
We try, and we'll continue to look at better ways as we continue to go through. So, I mean, the teachers have been doing this a long time, and they do know what they're doing. It doesn't mean they're right all the time. No differently that it doesn't mean that parents shouldn't be informed as much as possible. We need to inform them, and they rely on us. And yes, sometimes they disagree with our recommendation.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Sure.
Yue?
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing the information. It's very helpful. And so first, it's kind of follow up with Lawrence's question. And also regarding one point you made about the collaboration with Willis, I think that's great because especially for the math placement, and so we right now start the pre-algebra from Willis, right? Originally it was in the middle school, and in some other schools, actually 6, 7, 8 are in the same school.
Right.
So in our case, there's a physical barrier for two schools to collaborate. I'm really glad that you kind of try to take an initiative to collaborate with the Willis and to make the transition smooth. And you also mentioned that this year is kind of the first year to experiment the new way. And so in the student guide, there's some information about the mass placement policy. But I felt it's not very specific, and so it's not the policy you made. I'm just saying, yeah, I read the policy. I feel it probably can be more specific.
Okay.
So, for example, in some the schools, when parents disagree with the placement and the kids need to take the exam to demonstrate their readiness in order to be placed in a higher level class, in particularly those challenging ones. So I wonder whether it may be possible in the future for us to have something more specific. So otherwise, it might be difficult sometimes to resolve those disagreements. Teachers think the students should be placed here, parents think they should be placed there, besides all the other statistics. And maybe we can have a test there for students to take to demonstrate readiness. I just trying to, because I did some survey from other schools, it looks like those exam is kind of common if students want to appeal, parents want to appeal the placement, and there should be a way for them to go through. Otherwise, it may create a trouble later for the kids.
Okay.
And in particular, for our district, I feel there's a situation that many parents and the students are so highly motivated to go faster and be more, take a more advanced classes, and appreciate that motivation and aspiration. But sometimes probably the families didn't realize that there's some unintended consequence further in the way. I have 3 kids, so
Sure.
I feel when I had my first one, for example, in the 7th grade, I think differently. And from now, I have my 3rd one in the 7th grade because I know what my first one experienced later. And so I know better what might be the right pace for my 3rd one. But I feel many parents, especially if when they handle their first one, they may not know what to anticipate in the future. So that might be also a parent education issue. So when they are so eager to place their kids in a higher level class, they may not know what will be on the way later. And so their kids may take a calculus in their freshman, or they may lose the opportunities to participate in so much other fun activities or take some other interesting honor classes. And so I just feel, parents need more education there to see, okay, if you do this approach, what will be waiting for your kids later.
I think I understand.
Right. The stress level is so high. I learned a lot from my kids about their experience and their peers' experience. So I wish more parents can learn about that.
That'll be, again, part of our communication, I know. And then you were mentioning what comes next. I think that's what the counselors really do well with like a 4-year plan. So if you start high school classes early, okay, then what are you doing? What do you do in your 8th grade year, 9th grade year, 10th grade year? They do an excellent job of that, laying that out. And at the end of the day, it does come down to some choices. And then we try to counsel if there's mistakes.
Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. And next we have Mr. Strode to talk to us about sports, athletics.
First off, thank you for the opportunity to come and talk. I think it was last April I was here, and some of the slides tonight will kind of be the same with updated information to keep some of that consistency. I'm Joel Strode. I'm the athletic director, year 18 at West Lafayette, year 8 in this role. It's been great to have both Coach Fry and Mrs. Beckham back, for our 2nd year kind of together as a group. So enjoyed that consistency this year. Our athletic trainers, still Gusta Owens and Steffi Anderson. The last board meeting that I was here to present, it was kind of secret a little bit, but kind of in works of us moving to IU Health. And then kind of the greater news with that was being able to retain Gusta and Steffi. A great cost savings to the district with the switch in providers, which is awesome. But just speaks a lot to our kids, our parents, the community, our coaches, that these two professionals would completely change, their place of employment to stay in this community. So that's something the entire community should celebrate. Again, Mr. Caldwell and Anna Hurst leading our team of dedicated trip drivers. It really takes the entire group to be successful with all that. 22 varsity sports, that hasn't changed. Just a couple things to highlight there. We've kind of moved up to 2 JV football teams. I guess that was the second year with that, but then we added a C team volleyball, and we'll have a freshman or C team for boys basketball. Those are new this year. Same number of stipends, same number of gymnasiums and coaches, but ultimately it gets more kids involved and fewer cuts, which is a nice thing. Total number of athletes stays pretty consistent. Just kind of the emphasis here, we've got a lot of student athletes. A healthy percentage of our student population participates in these ECAs. By gender, again, I still think kind of females, positive trend over time. Kind of happy with where those are. The male side has stayed a little more steady. I spoke last time, it's not necessarily the goal to be equal just because the sports are going to have different numbers. I think last year I compared a football to a volleyball program, for example. But those numbers I feel like are pretty solid. Multi-sport athletes, this is something we're very proud of. It has to be intentional for the department and coaches to make this possible. This current data, it doesn't make a ton of sense because right now we have more kids signed up because we haven't kind of completed all the sports. Sometimes when parents get on final forms or a student athlete, they might, I'd like to do this sport and that sport. And then by the time kind of all the dust settles, like last time when I presented, it was April, we would probably have more consistent numbers. But ultimately, you can still look at this data and see, we do still have a strong number of 3-sport athletes, a strong number of 2-sport athletes, and kind of as some of those rosters are finalized, I think this data would, kind of regress towards what we've seen in previous years, which is a good thing as well. We spoke last time about the IHSA transfer policy. I'm not going to go through the first 5 or 6 bullets there, but just kind of update what I see. I guess one of the middle bullets I do want to touch on. There hasn't been as much movement as maybe ADs thought, kind of locally or across the state. The IHSA reports the data that their transfers are up across the state, but it's not as much. It's not the wild, wild west. It's not completely crazy like some thought it might be. Here locally, I've only processed 4 outgoing transfers, and obviously we've had more than 4 student athletes, leave our school over the past 6 or 7 months, but they've gone to a different state, right? The only ones that I would track would be if they're going to a different IHSA school, and those would be high school kids, not 7th and 8th graders. So if we have a high school student athlete leave here and go to an Indianapolis school, then we would do a transfer process. So that's what I'm talking about there when I'm referencing 4. And that number there says 16 incoming transfers. It's more like 18 because I just did a couple last week for as winter sports got started up. There was some, and most of those are living in our boundaries. Obviously, there's some that are TSC transfers. A few are returning students, and those are students who have either, maybe they went to Harrison for a semester, a year, and they wanted to come back. Maybe they went to a different local school. We've had a few like that. We also get a decent number of student athletes who they might go with their parents for a sabbatical or a semester abroad and I still have to do a transfer process. So some of those are just our own kids. Maybe a few of those are just our own kids coming back. Facilities, again, that's a constant thing. Since last time I was here, the track and field has been resurfaced. The lights at the athletics complex, and then the tennis court, obviously. All 3 of those are significant projects, excitement from the community, great feedback. Coaches are excited about all of them. Student athletes are excited about them. Positive feedback, and ultimately, thank you all for your support. Those are projects you have to improve, or excuse me, projects you have to approve, and we're appreciative that that's happened. Obviously, we've been here a decent amount of times tonight talking about finance. Other projects have been paused. It's understandable given what we're hearing. It's just kind of forcing us to try to be more creative, do more with less, try to work with our coaches and different teams and try to keep people happy, find ways to fundraise. Of course, we can't do huge projects, but even small ones can make a difference. One thing we've been working on this year is different sound systems throughout the corporation and kind of a business partnership with Sound Advice, and they've been great to work with and kind of give us a discount. We do some sponsoring for them, and it's great to have some experts help us with those projects. From the strategic plan, communication, one thing we're continuing to work on, specifically in the athletic department. Student athlete survey. There's some data there that gets sent out to all the student athletes after the season. Generally positive feedback from the student athletes, and if it's not, we're trying to look for common themes, both good and bad, areas where we can improve. We try to have those conversations with coaches where we obviously aren't identifying the student athlete if they share something, but do our best to just continue to get better in that area. Something new this year is a parent survey that was recently sent for all fall athletics. Again, some of the questions are going to be consistent from the student athlete survey to the parent, but then obviously there's different questions that was sent out through final form. So some probably have some parents on the board who have seen that. Inside Out Coaching, it's a book I'm sharing with coaches that kind of getting away from the win at all costs motto, and just focusing on education-based athletics. Trying to push out some more news articles and make the athletic website a little bit better with some Twitter feed stuff and just celebrating the kids because we've got a lot to celebrate. Also trying to be intentional about tough topics like cutting. It's not a pleasant thing, and people struggle with that. So trying to communicate beforehand with parents and families, both from the athletic office and then from the coach as well. And then something this winter we've started doing is I've been attending the parent meetings, the preseason parent meetings, to support coaches, to be able to answer questions, share some just general athletic policy information, also share that, hey, there'll be a parent survey coming at the end of the season, but of course, don't wait till the end of the season. If you've got a question or concern, that's what we're there for. And then also kind of a last thing, the athletic department, we're working on kind of adding a athletics hub is what we're calling it. I've stolen that from other schools, but just a place on our website where we'll have all the documents that our coaches need, whether it's professional development, just different policies, technology, onboarding new coaches, posting news stories, just a variety of things that will be there for the coaches. It also would be accessible if families or parents wanted to see that same information. So, all right, tried to get through that quickly. I know it's already been a long night for some, and you've got a longer night ahead, but
It's just Monday. We're used to it.
yeah, it's all right.
Rachel, please.
Thank you for this, Mr. Schroed. I just had one question. At the cover page of your PowerPoint, you had some wonderful photos of our
Yep.
student athletes. I'm going to take a stab and say those were probably taken by Paul K. Owens, or no?
No.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
and I feel like every time I see his work in public, I need to comment on the fact that it's his work and he's so generous with his time
He
and
is-
dedication.
He is unbelievable. He is very intentional about getting to all the sports, right? That's what's so cool. I could go through there and find something on all the sports. It's not just football, for example. And of course, his own children don't play in all those sports. So he's dedicating his time and his equipment. And he's one of several. But yes, I did steal these from Paul because I know he would happily.
Be totally fine with it, yes, but I thank you for that.
And I'd like to piggyback on that and say I had a student athlete of my own who got injured and couldn't play anymore and started taking pictures, and he was so very generous with teaching her. So I appreciate him as well. Thanks for bringing that up, Rachel. Anybody else? UA.
I would like to express my gratitude to your department and all the coaches and the bus drivers who drive kids around on weekends and sometimes very early in the morning, late at night. And so, schools are typically are ranked based on their academic performance, but I feel the ECAs play such an important role in to make them healthy and happy. And I went to a couple of those team dinners, and every time I was so impressed by how well our sports run, and many of our teachers actually they teach 3-4 courses during the day, then they do the coaching after school. That's really a lot of work, and but still they remember every case, what they have done in the past season, and all the fun stories. And every time I'm just blown away. I really, really appreciate that, and to help the kids grow well-rounded, and by involve them in those activities and have some team spirit, and just so thankful.
Yeah, we're certainly blessed with great coaches. It definitely is getting harder to coach. It's what it was 10 years ago. It's so much more now. We continue to do our best to try to find good people because we've got great kids.
Thank you. David?
And then, thanks for sharing all of this. The numbers that you presented for the number of students involved in athletics, do you have any idea how many of our students are involved in other athletic teams outside of the school that may be competing for time with them?
I do not have that data. I know that obviously the regular sports that we offer, I know there's plenty of student athletes who are playing on various club teams of those same sports. And then no doubt there are different athletic opportunities of programs that we don't offer. But yes, I'm sure there are a good amount.
Lawrence?
Yeah, thank you for the shared information. I really appreciate one thing is the cost savings in the current situation. That's for we work together for the financial sustainabilities. Another thing, I see the very high participation rate, so that's great. And also appreciate we start the parent survey, so we get feedback from parents. And also personally, I have been there volunteer a couple of times, so I can feel the vibe over there. So the teams, they are very good. So the ECA is a part of their educations. The kids learn a lot from during these kind of things. One thing I want to clarify, make sure I understand correctly. You're saying the 16 income transfers, maybe 18. So basically, those students are in in district, or maybe the out of district, but for the ECA purpose, they transfer to our school. Is that a fair statement?
Some of them, are you saying, do they live in our district?
Yeah, I see you say most of them in West Lafayette boundary. So basically they are in
I was
district
just trying to
students.
clarify. So right now I've processed 18
Okay.
transfers on my IHSA, meaning they're high school student athletes. They aren't incoming 7th, 8th, not even incoming 9th graders, but they're current high school students who have moved to us, whether it's from out of state, maybe it's from Harrison, maybe it's from Indianapolis,
Okay.
various locations. Obviously, I have all that data. I didn't know that it'd be proper to share it specifically where they're coming from, but I have that information.
But you say most
Most of them live in our boundaries.
live in our boundary. So
But some of those, like I said, there are our own students who,
They
they
may-
went away for a semester to,
whatever reasons.
one who was at Tokyo. for a semester,
sabbaticals,
and then
yeah,
he
okay.
Comes back to us.
Okay. So basically, our ECA activities attract them back to our school.
Sure.
That's at least
I
a
hope
factor.
so.
Okay.
That's part of trying to maintain our facilities and do a good job with everything so that people want to be here or want to come here for that.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Next item on our agenda is communication for the audience, from the audience, not for the audience. We have several people who have signed up, including Becky Creech. You're up first. It's good to see you. Doing great. Did you? Good.
It took it 3 hours.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
I had spinal surgery 3 weeks ago, so. So I'm Becky Creech. I'm a science teacher, parent, and homeowner in the district. And this is really more for the community than the board because you sat through all the finance stuff. But since our community is going to get a survey, I want to educate them maybe a little bit. I'm concerned that they might not be aware of what the funding cuts could do to our great school corporation. The state funding cuts to public schools are irresponsible, but turning away money from transfer students would be irresponsible for our school corporation. The last time the state severely cut school funding, I was a chemistry teacher at Harrison. What happened in TSC? Well, all middle school and high school teachers were were asked to teach 6 instead of 5 classes. So we were asked to do more with no additional compensation. Our average class sizes increased from 22 to 32. I had 32 chemistry students in a room made for 24 chemistry students. My student load increased from 100 students to 160 students. Electives were eliminated. In fact, any class with less than 20 students was canceled. Elementary students had reduced specials classes, and so the elementary teachers had to do more with the students since they weren't going to the specials classes, and special teachers lost their jobs. Could this happen in West Lafayette? Absolutely. What makes our schools special will disappear. What makes your property values high will disappear. Non-essentials will be cut first. This means any courses not required by the state for graduation could be cut. Electives will be gone, the very courses our students enjoy the most. Willis Orchestra, gone. Willis Band, gone. Extracurriculars like robotics, gone. Class sizes will increase. Your child will get less personalized attention. 15 to 20 West Lafayette teachers could lose their jobs. Who wants to tell their child that their favorite teacher was fired? So when our community fills out the latest survey, they need to realize their answers could have serious consequences for their child and the entire West Lafayette School District. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mary Dell Forbes. It's good to see you too.
First of all, thank you for having me. Some of you might know I live across the street and have since 1999 for more than a quarter of a century. Can't believe it. I have been a passionate follower of West Lafayette schools and supporter as both a parent and a teacher. This is now my 14th year teaching English at the West Lafayette Junior Senior High. I can't believe that either. And yet this year, even though I used to drive to school board meetings when I was very active in WLEA and even as a parent, I can't get myself to cross the street to attend these meetings. The dysfunction and the divisiveness some of the members of the board have shown trigger me. And as the kids say, I can't deal. Endlessly debating the issues that to me just seem clear as day. It took an hour before we even got to community input. For example, I can't understand how transfers are even debatable. We're in dire financial straits here. The teachers accepted a less than ideal contract because we knew that the state is slashing funding. Principals have already been asked to contain costs, and we've been put on notice that if we retire or if we decide to step out, that you may not even fill some of the vacant positions. Obviously, the writing is on the wall, and we have to look for sources of revenue. At $7,000, give or take, per transfer student, the answer should be obvious. The fact that we should be charging for consumable textbooks, is it ideal? No, but the answer is obvious. Should we increase the rate for the referendum? Again, not ideal, but the answer should be obvious. Saying no to transfers will, as Becky just outlined, have disastrous consequences. There will be cuts to extracurriculars, music and art, AP classes, unless they're mandated by the state. Teachers will be riffed. I was here when we sent away the students of Purdue grad students, and all of those students were absorbed by TSC. My brother-in-law was riffed, He was a wonderful teacher. He's out of teaching now. Property values, not concerned at all. I've been here since 1999. The best predictor of the future is the past. Our property value has tripled since 1999. Not issue. So again, with all due respect, you are elected to avail yourselves of the financial data that Mrs. Kronk, who is a rock star, by the way, has for you. Please do your homework, act in the best interest of your students and staff, and make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Tara Kim. It's good to see you too. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Tara Kim, and I'm in 11th grade at Westside, and I serve as the co-founder and president of West Lafayette Tootie, a student-led group of musicians from West Lafayette Junior Senior High School. We perform at senior communities every month to share live music with residents and patients, helping those who might otherwise be isolated. After learning that federal grants for National CASA were abruptly terminated in April 2025, our group chose to step up for Tippecanoe CASA with the support and permission of our club's faculty sponsor, Mrs. Letcher, and also Principal Rogers. Mrs. Witt has also supported us and advised us since the beginning of our group. For some background, a court-appointed special advocate, or a CASA, is a trained community volunteer that speaks up for the best interests of abused and neglected children in the Tippecanoe County court system. By monitoring their case closely and advocating for the needs of the child, volunteers give a voice to our community's most vulnerable children by being independent fact finders and facilitators for change. They promote and support quality volunteer representation for children to provide each child a safe, permanent, and nurturing home. We know that CASA's advocacy is a lifeline for children in the court system, even though that work can be less visible because of confidentiality. Kids in care often have many team members, including attorneys, social workers, therapists, investigators, and foster parents, but most of these roles are paid. A CASA advocate is often the only unpaid, consistent relationship some of these kids have. In 2024, approximately 200,000 foster children were served by CASA programs nationwide, with more than 79,000 CASA volunteers advocating for them. In Indiana, 19,602 foster children were served by 2,812 CASA volunteers. These numbers are not just statistics, and they represent real children who deserve safety, love, and stability. Many come into care with little to nothing. In order to raise money for the CASA for Kids Fund, where funds go directly to the Tippecanoe CASA, WL has committed to hosting a benefit concert in which 100% of the proceeds will go to CASA for Kids Fund. This benefit concert will be part of a fundraiser called Project CASAthon, which is a collaborative fundraising effort for CASA. The concert will be on Sunday, December 7th at 3 p.m. at Covenant Church, and we also reached out to West Lafayette Student Art Initiative, who will be selling artwork during intermission. Today, I am reaching out to invite all of you to the concert, and if you happen to know individuals or businesses who might like to support Tippecanoe CASA, we would be extremely grateful if you would share the flyer and help us spread the word. For anyone who asks how they can help, they can share event details, introduce us to individuals or organizations, provide in-kind raffle items, sponsor the printing of programs and flyers, donate refreshments or baked goods, and make a monetary contribution to the event or directly to Tippecanoe CASA. We really hope you guys can make it, and I'm certain that the impact of our community's collective efforts will directly contribute to the successful advocacy for the very people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I am just so proud of students like you. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Thank you for doing that. That's really beautiful. The next and final speaker from the audience is Becky Swanson. Ooh, I'm gonna get my act together.
Hello,
Welcome.
I'm Becky Swanson. I'm a community member, parent, and a teacher. This is my 7th year as a special education teacher at West Lafayette Junior Senior High School, and tonight I'm speaking on behalf of my department. On Friday, we learned that our public agency representative, Holly Walker, would no longer have a position with West Lafayette Community School Corporation after this current school year. Within an hour of learning this news, there was an internal job posting for a student and family services specialist for our corporation. As we looked over this new job posting, what we saw was exactly Holly's job and then some. As the persons most affected by this change, your special education teachers, a handful of whom are here tonight, are incredibly disheartened and have some significant concerns, which is why I'm here before you. This public agency representative position is one of momentous importance. To name just a few of the responsibilities, this person must have a thorough understanding of Article 7 and other special education laws and keep up with the changes. They must have in-depth knowledge of how special education services and provisions function in each building so they can help guide in case conferences as needed. They are in charge of checking every single IEP for compliance before sending it off to parents for signatures, the final step before it becomes legally binding. They make sure the Medicaid forms get signed and uploaded. They complete reevaluation and ineligibility paperwork, data forms and exit forms, and have to get it all to the right people. They keep track of massive amounts of paperwork. If the person cannot do their job effectively, efficiently, and correctly, it could open the corporation up to more significant issues in the long run. There are very few people within this corporation who come even remotely close to holding the qualifications, not to mention the experience, knowledge, and grit that are required for this vital position. Holly has a bachelor in elementary education, a master of science in special education with 3 special education endorsements, mildly mental handicapped, seriously emotionally handicapped, and learning disabled. She has 20 years of special education teaching, 10 in self-contained ED classrooms, which is an achievement in and of itself, 1.5 in an alternative high school, and the rest in K-12 resource and inclusion classrooms. Holly is the one who families have seen in our conferences for the past 5 years. They have rapport and history with her. During the 23-24 school year, Holly attended the corporation's 346 IEP meetings. In 24-25, she attended 496. This year so far, we've had 103. In her 5 years with us, she's attended somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 meetings. Not many outside of the special education department understand that. Please show us an internal candidate who has this experience. I'm running out of time. So she's given this corporation nothing but her best over the past 5 years. And now she's been told not even halfway through the current school year that she won't have a job come next year. Yet we expect her to continue to come and do her job to the best of her ability. And she will, because that's the kind of person she is. We can't even offer her the courtesy of applying and interviewing for her own job because she isn't an internal candidate. And why? I don't really know. Maybe to save some money in the long run. But what is it going to cost us? To lightly quote one of my coworkers, with our litigious society, we need someone qualified. And I guarantee you, we aren't going to find someone better than Holly. So with the time left to change our minds, with all due respect, we implore you to reconsider.
Thank you very much. All right. I see a lot of people in this audience who've had a very long day, and we're all going to close our eyes. And if you would like to excuse yourselves, no one is going to mind. Whatever. So thank you very much. Kind of thought that would be the response to that. All right. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion, please. Rachel?
I'd like to make a motion to remove the minutes from the October 6th executive session and the October 6th regular board meeting. I was not present, and so I can't really, I'm gonna have to abstain from that vote. So if we could pull those out, please.
You bet. Could I get a second, please? It doesn't, you're correct, and we don't need to vote either. I apologize.
I also have. I would
Okay.
like to remove the tentative collective bargaining minutes from the consent agenda as well, please.
Okay, so we're moving that. Okay, and those require no, which one was it, which item? Okay, thank you. Number 4, okay. Okay, so we'll take those in that same order after we've voted on the rest of the consent agenda. May I please have a motion for the remaining? David? To approve, and Lawrence? Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? No, there's not on this. Thank you. All in favor? Let's do some buttons. There we go. So the consent agenda without those items passes 7-0. And there we go. Now we are going to go back and take one at a time the minutes from the October 6th executive session. Rachel will be abstaining. Could I please have a motion? Lawrence? Thank you. Thank you. And is there a second? David, thank you. Any discussion? Great. There we go. All those in favor? There we go. Okay. All right, now we'll go back and take the regular board meeting minutes from October 6th. Is there a motion? Okay, and is there a second? George, thank you. Any discussion? Daisha?
The current minutes indicate the policies were rescinded, even though they weren't listed on the agenda, discussed, or voted on during the meeting. So I would like to motion to remove the rescinded policies from the minutes.
Okay. David?
I'll second.
You'll second? Okay. Is there any discussion?
Generally speaking, I'm the person who offers those rescinded policy numbers. I was not here, so
Okay.
They didn't happen.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go ahead and go ahead, Lawrence.
Update. I think Rachel understand our legacy policy the best one. So maybe later on, from now on, maybe we will have some formal kind of motions to repeal the Neola's policy.
Okay.
May recommend from Rachel. And I think she already did a lot of research and that kind of thing. Thank you.
Okay. David?
It was there. Lawrence and I, in Rachel's absence, didn't completely state and rescind those. So because we didn't state that, we should remove them. And then
Okay.
we can just add that to a motion later on today.
Sounds great. Okay. So all in favor of amending the 10-6 meeting minutes to not reflect the rescinding of the Neola policies? Thank you. Okay, there we go. So many words. Okay, one more. I did, didn't I? Oh, for Christ's sake, I'm sitting here waiting on myself. Yeah, okay, so we're rescinding those. And then if we could get a motion to approve the amended 10-6. No. We did. So all we need to do is discuss and vote? Okay. Okay.
We have the motion to amend, so now we're just voting to approve the amended.
To approve the amended minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Start. I'm gonna make you do the buttons, George, because it's too many things. There we go. All right. All right. Did I hit it that time? There we go. One more. I think we're missing David. There we go. Okay. Okay. Good heavens. All righty. Thank you for that. And that concludes, nope, we've still got one more. That was Daisha's number 4, which is the November 4th tentative collective bargaining meeting minutes. Rachel?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the November 4 executive, or tentative collective bargaining meeting.
Okay. Any discussion? Daisha?
Being a public meeting, I think we should expand it more to give just a little detail than simply saying that there was a public comment received. I don't think it needs to be intense, but I would like the community to be aware of what was shared. So I make a motion to add, under it says that we accepted comments, the line David Jost, high school teacher, commented on teachers' concern regarding limited salary increase.
And Lawrence seconds, okay. Is there any discussion about that? No?
I think.
Yes,
yeah,
go
just
ahead.
quick. I think the teachers' feedback regarding the collective bargaining agreement is very important. I think we should document that on the meeting minutes. Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, there we go. We got to start that over. Sorry. All right. I'll go ahead and call the vote for that item. Great. Okay. So we'll go ahead and include that line. And now that we've already moved on the minutes as a whole, is there any discussion on the minutes as a whole? No. Okay. Then I'll call the vote on approving the minutes as a, I'm sorry? With, as amended, yeah, as amended. Okay. Okay, super. All right, that was a lot of things. Having no unfinished business, let's go ahead and move on to new business. Dr. Greiner, would you like to go ahead and introduce the collective bargaining agreement?
Yes, thank you. You have before you the collective bargaining agreement, and I want to thank you, Mrs. Austin. I've written down a few words that I'd like to share as we ask the board for approval of this new contract, particularly after our public hearing. Tonight, we present for approval the collaboratively negotiated and ratified 2-year teacher contract. We're deeply grateful for the WLEA and to our teachers for their partnership, professionalism, and commitment to our students. We especially appreciate their willingness to approve a 2-year agreement when a 1-year option was available, reflecting their shared trust and collaboration. Amid ongoing uncertainties in state funding and property tax reform, we've remained focused on preserving cash responsibly while continuing to prioritize competitive compensation for our staff. While many districts offered minimal or no raises this year, we worked closely with the WLEA to be as aggressive as possible within our means. The new agreement provides both a step raise and a pay scale, plus additional base increases of $550 in year 1 and $250 in year 2. For comparison, starting salaries are $45,000 in LSC, $48,000 in TSC, and $52,300 in West Lafayette in year 1, $52,550 in year 2. Our top of the scale salary will be $92,150, and our off the scale, reflecting our most experienced educators, $100,506, both well above neighboring districts. That being stated, we do recognize the disappointment is expressed by Mr. Jost, and we will continue to address ways to save money so that when we compare cash balances from year 1 to year 2, a year from this coming January, we want to be in a position where we can offer additional dollars at that time if possible. We're sincerely thankful for our teachers and their hard work and their dedication. We're grateful for our community's continued support, and we're grateful to the board's commitment to sustaining fair and competitive salaries. Teachers' increases will range from $550 to $9,700, which include advancements for additional coursework, degrees, and experience. This contract, like those before it, was bargained in good faith, and it reflects our shared values as a district. As we move forward, we will continue to focus on cost-saving strategies to ensure that our teachers can continue to receive fair and meaningful salary increases over time. Tonight, we respectfully request board approval of the negotiated 2-year contract before you.
Thank you very much. And I want to let you and your team know that we do very much appreciate all of the creativity and your cost-saving measures. And I will leave it there. Do we have a motion regarding the agreement, collective bargaining agreement? Lawrence, move to approve. Okay, thank you. Rachel, second. Okay, is there any discussion? Rachel?
At our recent contract hearing, we heard disappointment and frustration about this new contract and specifically about compensation. So while this is a little bit unorthodox, it is important to me to respond. I want to be clear that I asked for this moment from board leadership to speak personally, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. I also did write my comments out, so I'm well prepared and say what I mean to say. A few years ago, a teacher stood in front of this board and shared their frustration on a topic, a somewhat similar topic. I was board chair at the time, and over the weeks that followed, I felt their concern had been addressed. I did not find out for almost 2 years that they did not feel the same. And in fact, were very angry with me and what they perceived to be my lack of response. So call it a lesson learned perhaps, but it is important to me that you hear a clear and public response. And I'll distill this down to 3 points. The first of those is thank you. I recognize that it is not simple or easy to stand in front of us and express dissatisfaction. I know that you, like me, love our schools. It is difficult yet necessary to give voice to both loving something and challenging it to do better. I am always grateful for your professionalism and grace. To be completely clear, I believe you are underpaid for your work. Continuing to chip away at improving that and attempting to keep up with inflation is not a forgotten need. Number 2, I want to push back just a little bit on some of the comparisons you drew to other school corporations and their teacher compensation. Comparison has a relative value. While useful to learn from what others in our states may be doing better than we are, every school corporation has a different situation, size, demographic, boundaries, potential for growth, funding equation, and existing resources. To compare us to 5 corporations that we may have fallen short of, when there are hundreds of corporations in Indiana we have done better than, is an incomplete perspective. What we as school leaders should be charged with is making decisions that maximize resources and prioritize needs to benefit our students, teachers, and community. Full stop. Teachers are part of those decisions, not subject to them. And I want to encourage you to push back on us if ever you feel you do not have the opportunity and information you need to participate in that conversation. Which brings me to item number 3. In my time on the board, there has not been a day, a conversation, or a vote where doing what is right for teachers and students has not been on my heart and part of the conversation. That is unfortunately not something the political leaders in our state and nation can say. What we are dealing with right now with funding and education of our children is at a level of absurdity that I never even imagined possible. In our corporation, you are very correct to call attention to the issue of transfers. You understand, as do I, that there is no mathematical possibility that we can eliminate transfers and not impact the classroom and our teachers. While I believe we in this room have a fair grasp on the issues, I do not believe our community does. We are standing at the edge of the pool of those very difficult conversations, preparing to dive in, and I perhaps think it's more of a cannonball. Please step into these conversations, stay informed, help us to see your perspective. I know you are already educating our children, and I will ask you to also educate us. The decision tonight is specifically about teacher pay. I believe the decisions coming up over the next months will likely impact teacher pay, and in fact, all of West Lafayette schools for a generation. I really appreciate your attention, and Mr. Jost, especially you, for coming forward and making that statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would, Yue, go ahead.
I participated in the whole negotiation process. I totally echo what Dr. Greiner said. And so I appreciate all the hard work teachers have been doing. And I have 3 kids I witness first-handed all the hard work our teachers do in classroom and outside the classroom. For the ECAs, teachers have to get up early or stay late, and including our bus drivers. I really, really appreciate your great effort. And so oftentimes I feel the word negotiation sounds weird to me because I feel I'm on the other side with the teacher. And I hope that we can increase the compensation for our teachers. And so this is a weird process. And it's called a negotiation. Feel like we want to cut it down, but actually I wish we can increase always. And plus, seeing when we look at the historical data with the inflation considered, actually teachers' compensation went down in the past several years. Now with the state's new policy on the tax, that things is getting worse. So I really feel bad about that, and I hope it can help more. And here I have some proposals. Many of them have been mentioned, but I just want to repeat it again. First, we should creatively reduce cost without reducing programs and teachers, staff members. And also we need to creatively increase our revenue and think out of box, figure out ways to do so. And another specific ones, and earlier this semester, we delayed the vote for charging families the consumables. Probably we should do that as soon as possible, so next year we won't have that discrepancy there. And the first one is I hope everyone, including board members and residents, teachers, and contact the politicians and to get more support for the public education. Really, it doesn't make sense that we already have a low property tax rate. We rank the bottom already for that, and nationwide, and we cut it even more. Also, we compensate our teachers. The compensation for teachers in Indiana is already ranked at the bottom, but we make it even worse. On the other hand, actually, the students' achievement rank the top in Indiana in the nation. It's just so ironic that we don't reward our teachers in the appropriate way. So it really doesn't make sense. I encourage everyone to contact those politicians and the decision makers to change what they do. Hopefully things will change back and to follow the common sense. Thanks.
Thank you. We will have that opportunity starting in January. Lawrence, did you want to say something?
Yes. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you, our teachers, and also our educator associations leadership for their engaging collaboratively and also with good faith in this agreement. And also I appreciate David Joseph speaking as a representative of Teacher Association to speak so honestly before the whole board. Yeah, I heard the disappointment and the frustrations, and I share pretty much all what you feels. I shopping for the groceries in all the discount grocery stores. I shopping over there. I mean, since I was in college students, I know the price going up. Before the pandemic, $100 you can fill your shopping cart. Now you go there, $100 pretty much cover the bottom of your shopping cart. So I totally understand, and it's frustration to know that even with raise on paper, so every year we get some raise, but it seems like we feel like we are kind of left behind the inflation. So I understand that, and I really understand that as education, that situation. And after I look at the contract, I think the contract reflects the very difficult trade-off in a very tight financial environment. So basically, we have a shrinking state support, also flat enrollment, and new limits on the transfer revenues. but any of them didn't change the fact that we really valued our teachers. They deserve to be valued and also should be supported. Whoever, even you are, no matter it's a new teacher, I just come out from college. We have platform, you develop your career, you build up your strong resumes, seasoning faculties. We want to return you, keep you. We want to keep the best teachers and veterans. You have many experience. We appreciate you mentoring other teachers and your leadership in our schools. So no matter what kind of teacher you are, we really appreciate and value you, and we do our best to support you. But I mean, basically, the contract is reflect the constraints our school, and not only our school, it's also the whole community right now, what we are facing. There's uncertainties and the budget constraints, that kind of thing. So my hope is that everybody continue these kind of open conversations together, and not only the teachers association and the school administrations, pretty much everybody, parents, the whole community. This school is the whole community things. And when the financial situation allowed, we can make it that right. So tonight we are going to vote on that, and probably very likely may not meet everybody's expectation. So I understand that, but I believe it still affirm our commitment to keep our school strong, and also we work together to work toward the competitive compensations for our teachers, and also we want a sustainability of our school corporations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, let's go ahead and call the vote on the bargaining agreement, please. And that passes 7-0. All right, the next item is the health insurance renewal and premiums. More good news, Michelle.
This actually is a little bit of good news.
Good.
So,
All
yeah.
right, I'll take it.
So the Benefits Committee, comprised of teachers across the district, met with our insurance consultant from Brown & Brown last month to discuss the Anthem renewal for 2026. Rates for dental, vision, life, and LTD are locked in for another year at this time. The insurance market is currently trending in the double digits this year for both medical and pharmacy claims, leading to an increase in insurance premiums across the market. While West Lafayette pays a fixed monthly payment, we are a self-insured entity. We have a settle-up period at the end of the benefit year and either receive a refund if claims are less than what we paid into the plan, or pay an additional amount if claims are higher than what we paid into the plan. We had a less than expected claim year in 2024 and thus received a large refund in 2025. We also raised employee premiums last year to a point where we funded the plan at a higher rate than expected. Due to all of this, our self-insurance fund has a large cash balance to help fund 2026 premiums, and thus we are recommending a 0% increase in premiums for 2026. Even though Anthem is increasing our monthly fixed payment amount, our fund has the cash to cover those payments and to still have a sufficient cash balance at the end of the year. Please approve the recommendation of a 0% increase to health insurance premiums for 2026.
Well, that is good news. That is definitely not what our renewal looked like at my work. Okay, I need a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the insurance renewal.
Okay, motion to approve. And is that you seconding, George? Okay, great. Any discussion? Okay, super. Let's go ahead and start the vote. Great. That is 7-0. Okay. Next item is the policies. And I would recommend that we take the information from Rachel. That was a good catch, wasn't it?
So you'll notice your policies tonight are in 3 sections. The policy committee, Lawrence, David, myself, Dr. Greiner, and Mrs. Roth, and the fabulous Roberta all met and went through policies. We had a group of 6 that received no recommended changes. And so I'm proposing that first batch we approve in one batch, and we don't need to go line by line through those. The second grouping of those are a group of policies with second readings where there are recommended changes. And so just to repeat our process, any board members gave us feedback, and thank you for those of you who did that. Those were inserted into the document. Those are in blue text. Changes that were presented by legal are in black text, if I'm remembering correctly. Is that right, Roberta? That they're in black for the legal, red for legal. And then the policy committee put our comments in green, our recommendation. So if we can move through those all one at a time. And then finally, the last batch, and you'll notice it is a very long list. The policy committee was, I don't know, drinking coffee or something, but we really are trying to move forward on these. And so we decided to be a little bit aggressive. And I'm going to ask that on that item number 14, board members, please take time to read those and give feedback by a date that our board chair will recommend here in a minute. Policy committee is going to get together again and take your feedback and follow this process with as many of these as we can get through, with the caveat that if we can't quite get all of through all of them, that we might drop some of them to the next month. So, but we decided to go big or go home. So that's kind of the update from the policy committee, and that's what I got for you.
Thank you. Do you have your next meeting date set? Policy.
11/25. So
Okay.
probably we can, as long as before that date, if you have any revision suggestions, we can.
I'm sorry, a week?
The
I didn't hear.
Policy committee
Meeting on the 25th, right?
Yeah, policy committee meeting will be November 25th. So I think probably before that date, any revision,
Like the 20th?
25.
The meeting is on the 25th, so let's say the 20th.
Okay.
Will that give, Roberta, will that give you enough time to add things in?
Pull everything together.
Okay.
Great.
So 11/20,
The
November
20th.
20. Okay.
Yeah, that gives
November
everybody
20. All right.
another 10 days from today.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Let me write that down.
Amy, I'm sorry, there's one thing I need to add on to this too.
Yes, ma'am.
So on this first batch of policies, specifically, just want to do these for the record, but we will be, should this first batch pass, we would also like to rescind, or policy committee recommends the rescission of PO 2281, PO 2623.01, PO 5350, PO 5771, PO 2330, and PO 5130. As a reminder, that may not be every policy that would be covered by part of these, but those can be wholly removed. So
Okay.
when we get through this process, we will go through, obviously, and clean house on those that are remnants.
Okay. So I guess the first thing I need is a motion on that first set of policies, item number 12. David?
I'd like to make a motion on approving all of the items under 12, or all of the policies under 12, and rescinding, should I read through the list
No,
again?
the
Okay.
policies,
The
yeah.
the policies just stated by Rachel.
Perfect. Is there a second? Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Any discussion on those items? Daisha?
Dr. Greiner, the one that talks about Title I parent and family engagement, it talks about parents being involved with the corporation. Would you mind kind of sharing what that looks like and what we're doing to follow that, please?
Absolutely. I lost
Did you lose your train of thought?
yeah.
How do we involve parents in
I
Title
wanted
I?
to say absolutely, Mrs. Mumford. I don't know why I wanted to call you Daisha, but I knew I should call you Mrs. Mumford. So,
It's, yeah, we're just all tired.
so a Title I school, we only have one Title I school right now, and that is our elementary school. And it's reviewed during Title I Family Night is one of the things. Also, there's a parent contact or compact that is completed to ensure involvement, and that is done during registration. But a lot happens at that Title I Family Engagement Night, where they bring parents in and engage and take input. But also surveys are given from time to time, and I know Will S. has used POSIP even to better tailor engagement. So that is always something that is ongoing as well. So I appreciate the question.
Anything else in discussion? Okay, super. I'll go ahead and call for the vote on rescinding the old and approving the new. It's not me this time. Okay, there we go. That passes 7 to.
Do we need a hold a separate vote on rescinding?
No. Do we? Do we need?
That's why we took it out of the consent agenda, right? Specifically rescind all the policies from October that we're supposed to be rescinding.
Yeah, that'll be different. Yeah.
See that?
Okay, the next one we're considering is B-150, organizational meeting, Board of Finance and committees. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we move to approve
Thank you.
this policy. Just, we're gonna have a lot of conversation about it.
Okay, is there a second? Real quick. Thank you, David. Okay, go for it.
All right, so first things first, there is not a rescission of a policy attached to this one. Second, at the beginning, we had a board member who offered recommended text in blue. The policy committee agrees and agrees that we should add that. That has been cleared by legal. There, if you scroll down to paragraph
Oops, I'm sorry. Let me hit that.
3, 4, 5, 6. We just adjusted a couple of words here. We changed it from a shall to a may provision and set a fee. There's a lot of conversation about this, but we felt like this was appropriate. In the next paragraph,
We're on B-150.
yeah, the next paragraph,
Same paragraph.
yeah, we had some feedback from a board member, a couple of board members that we've included in there that you can see in blue text. So I guess the thing to do is probably start with the first item, or you want to go through all of them?
The policy committee put forward the language up in that first paragraph.
Right,
In agreement with the committee members, so we don't need to vote on that.
correct.
The other questions are all about paragraph 4. So
Yeah, and there's also for paragraph 5, so we'll get through paragraph 4 and then move to paragraph 5. And my recommendation is going to be that with the change of the shall to may and the thee to a, that we accept the policy paragraph as written.
So we need someone to move to amend.
I do want to make a comment on the fee for individuals, just a slight change in wording to make it a little bit clearer. I'd like to move to change it to the board may set a fee charged to persons who request individualized notice.
Okay.
If I could just make this statement, with the number of edits that we have on these, I would ask the board to consider that we not try and edit them on the fly. I agree actually with your wording. I think it's better, but it becomes confusing to those, to us. And so if we could approve this, and if you want to dump it back on to the next meeting to ask for a revision, that would make sense to me. But to move through these efficiently, I would just ask that we pick one or the other that's actually written in the document for now. Do you agree? Okay.
I would agree with that. We've put forward that that paragraph 4 with the minor green edits. If somebody wants to make a motion to modify with either that second or either the blue edits or both of those, they can. But unless there's a motion to do that, then we're just going to move through with the paragraph that we put in.
Okay, we already have
we
a
don't-
motion to approve with no rescinding of any other policies. Now we need a motion about paragraph 4.
Yes.
Okay,
Only if somebody has a motion to make about it. If nobody has a motion to make, then we just move forward.
okay.
Yeah, and I just did. I asked. for a-
Different paragraph.
No, same paragraph.
Same paragraph. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
And George added, I don't mean to speak for you, but George added an alternate language to our paragraph, but
But we're asking that we don't do that.
my request is because we accepted all of this feedback in advance, that we try to not edit on the fly in this meeting, if possible.
Okay, so I'm trying to.
I
make-
would like to second his motion. I think the committee came back and shared their opinion, but I think he has a valid point, and I think that it should be considered. We
Okay.
haven't had any discussion since the policy committee met, so I'll second George's recommendation. Mr. Files.
And then that does not require a vote, because it's got a motion and a second, correct? It does. Okay, but we have to have discussion about, and you need to tell me exactly what words so I can write them down.
Just a simple change. So
Uh-huh.
the board may set a fee charged to persons who request individualized notice. Just
May
number
set a fee for individuals,
to persons who request individualized notice.
to persons. Okay,
Individual notice. So that require individual notice.
got it.
So one-
Okay.
One word, individual.
Yeah, individual. So, and just for, I don't want to take up too much time, but just for context, the reason I wanted to push that change when I saw it, when I went through this earlier is because it goes back to the conversation we had about it last month about why this fee is in place in the first place. And this fee isn't for anyone who asks. This fee is for anyone who asks for specific and special requests, like if they want the entire agenda printed out and mailed to them, or if they want a video recording or something. So I just want to make sure we make that clear before we actually publish this policy.
So you don't want us charging people who call and say, hey, is there a meeting tonight?
Exactly.
Okay, okay. Is there any other discussion?
I just want to point out to you that this policy paragraph is limited only to people who request a notice of board meetings. It's not any other content, it's not any video, it's nothing other than, is there a meeting? That's it.
Okay. Anything else? Cool. Okay, let's go ahead and vote on whether or not to add, the board may set a fee to persons who request individualized notice to paragraph 4. Okay. Now we will return to the previous motion, which is to approve this policy B-150 as presented by the policy committee. And I'm going to stop so we can see it again. There we go. Okay. With George's amendment, right, everything else is as presented. Is there any other discussion? Okay, great. Then I will start the vote. Okay. I have to write this down. Okay, great, thank you. Great, now we are moving on to the next item, which is
Like to make a motion.
175?
No, we didn't vote on the policy, we still have paragraph 5 on this policy.
Oh, okay, so
No part.
I thought we just,
So
okay,
we missed paragraph number 5. We were talking about paragraph number 4, but if you scroll down, there's paragraph number 5.
okay.
Okay.
Um,
I thought we were just voting on the change in paragraph.
We did
Uh,
technically vote to approve it.
It's a new paragraph.
Okay,
So that's paragraph 5.
would the person who proposed this language still like to have this discussed? Or is it okay as we've previously voted on? You still want to have 5? No, you're good, okay. So we can skip 5.
We're good then.
We're
We'll
good
skip
then,
her. Okay.
okay.
Motion to approve this paragraph.
Yeah. We're good.
Okay, super. Next, we're going to move on to C-175, which is attendance, academic engagement, and truancy prevention policy. Rachel?
We already moved on.
So on this one, we're on C-175. This one would ask for rescission of PO 5200.
Uh-huh.
And if you look at this particular policy, attendance, academic engagement, and truancy prevention, legal has given the feedback on this one and some kind of change of law. And so hopefully everybody had a chance to look at that. But I would recommend that we approve this policy with the noted edits from legal counsel.
Okay, is there a second? Thank you, and any discussion? No? Great. I will call the vote to approve it as presented by legal and rescind PO 5200. Cool, okay. Well done. All right, we're gonna move on to Lawrence, what's your?
Good question. Regarding the B section, I think Rachel, we already finished pretty much all the B sections. Are you going to have a motion to repeal all the section Neola, the section called 000 bylaw sections?
So the policies are layered, if that makes sense, and so they appear in multiple places. And so we're close to that, but I'd like to do the final cleanup after we get a little bit further down the road. That's my recommendation anyway.
Okay, the next one is C200, anti-bullying.
Right, so on this one, I'm sorry, I just spoke without you
Go
giving me
ahead,
permission.
please.
Okay.
You're good.
C200, this one would be rescission of 5517.01. And if you look at this one, this is one that we have had a lot of conversation about. I think it's been on our agenda for many months. And I do think that we have ended with a stronger policy because of that conversation. We've been at it long enough, the law has changed on it. So if you look on paragraph 1, there is a small green edit from the policy committee, and then there are legal edits in red as you move through. And then we have one board member recommendation in blue. But my motion is that we approve policy C200, anti-bullying, updated per the legal commentary on it.
Okay, is there a second?
Rachel, is that including the green text as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that, yes.
Is that a second?
Sure.
Okay. Any discussion on this one, Daisha?
This one actually has quite a few recommendations, and so if possible, I think to make it simpler, it'd be helpful to go through each recommendation individually, that there's differences.
Okay.
So to me, what I'm seeing the difference that I would like to discuss is in the intervention and response paragraph. There's two sentences that the policy committee is recommending to be added. So,
Oh, back up there, Brandon, sorry.
no, go down. Go down.
Oh, is it down further?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought we were looking at the blue.
So what I would like to do is motion to have us just talk about the first recommended sentence in this section and approve that, and then move on to the second one, because they're, to me, very different.
Okay, so give me
Topics.
exact words, please.
Well, that first one, I guess I just will motion to approve the first sentence in the intervention response paragraph recommended by the committee, the policy committee.
We don't need to approve those.
Right,
Don't do anything with that one.
If the policy committee, I'm sorry, if the policy committee put it forward as language.
Leave that one alone.
That's what's been brought to us.
Okay.
As the language to use.
Perfect. Let's then I want to move to that second sentence in green that says before the end of the next day after the school becomes aware of the possible event. So as all of you know, I feel very strongly about this issue that it's presenting. It's not only important to me as a parent, it's also important to me as a social worker and therapist. So the policy committee's recommended language does technically meet the minimum requirement set by state law, but I believe we have a higher ethical responsibility. Parents should be informed before the end of that calendar day when their child reports being bullied. No student who feels unsafe should be expected to return to that environment the next day without their family being aware. As a school district, our first priority must be the safety and well-being of our students. If a student tells us they feel unsafe, we must act with urgency, not delay communication for 24 hours. We say in the same paragraph, consistent with other legal obligations, the corporation will prioritize the safety of the target of the bullying. Delaying to inform parents does not align with this statement or with our ethical responsibility. If we truly prioritize student safety, our policies must reflect immediate action and transparent communication. So I would like to make a motion to change that second sentence to read, and it's just a one-word change. The corporation shall inform the parents of all students involved in alleged incidents before the end of the calendar day instead of next. So just switch that word next to calendar after the school becomes aware.
Thank you. I really appreciate the clarity of the motion. And Lawrence, am I correct that you seconded that?
Yeah, I can say.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion, Rachel?
Just to be clear, I think that sets an unfair, represents our administrators unfairly to say that they don't care about the safety of children and that they want children to be safe in our schools. That particular wording, and I agree with Mrs. Mumford that we want our children to feel safe and we want parents to be communicated with, and I don't think there's anybody in this town who would advocate for that more than our principals and administrators. The point of wording it in this way is so that they have some flexibility, because in situations of bullying, in situations where children may feel unsafe, they are often complex. And so while it is very important that we do keep the requirement of the state, we're going to follow the law, absolutely. And I believe that 99.9% of the time, the situations afford themselves to the administrators informing the parents in that period of time. There are some unique situations in which they cannot or should not, because it's not in the best interest of the children. So I would like to leave our administrators the flexibility and their professional judgment to let them determine in that situation what is best when it's an exception. But I'm always troubled by assumptions being announced that we somehow do not trust our administrators, or our administrators need to be forced by a deadline to do the right thing for kids, because that is just nothing further from that truth.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Lawrence?
Yeah, I think we really get a lot of feedback from our principals, building administration teams. I think in summary, they think they are more comfortable with the second day's by the end of second day report. I think everybody agree the student safety is the top priorities. Anything happened, we should notice parents as soon as possible. But I also, and when I balance these kind of things, I think there's a lot of things need to be done before notice parents. And our frontline teachers and also administrations, they give us pretty good feedback. And I prefer to follow their suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh,
Yeah, just
oh,
a
go ahead.
practical question. So we're not in the buildings, we're not administering the kids. If we change the policy to say that we're going to notify both the parents of the victim and the perpetrator before the end of the calendar day, so what happens if it turns out not to have been bullying at all? What happens if it turns out that, so just for example, what's the difference between a fight and bullying? I think we need to give the people who are in the building time enough to make that determination before we start telling parents things that could affect, honestly, how the parents deal with their children.
Daisha?
So to respond to that, I think there's a big difference between informing the parents that a reporting incident has a bullying incident has been reported versus giving them updates on the investigation. So that's what's the big difference right here is we're not asking administrators to share anything with parents more than your child is involved in an investigation on bullying. The likelihood scenario of how it ends, they will keep them updated. But my concern is if we have a child who's in a situation where they're feeling bullied, parents should be informed. And if it's just a matter of teaching the child, what does bullying mean? And helping the parents understand Administrators have no information at this time. So I've actually spoken to administrators about this topic and discussed that the point is not to share all this information. They don't know anything. They've just been told it. But the point is to let the parents be involved in a situation that is a very serious. As soon as the word bullying is used, this is taken very seriously. And so just letting the parents know this is beginning, we'll give you more information is what is being asked here.
Lawrence, go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Greiner, or maybe the principals, maybe you can share how often that the bullying happenings. My understanding is not that very often. So regarding that Desha's comments, I agree. Anything happens, we should immediately notice parents. But bullying, the conflict always happening to kids. And probably if we just, anything happens, we notice parents, probably we overwhelm the parent. That's my my thought about that. Maybe you can share about how frequently, how often that happens. So
We can research that and get that data to you. What we've collected so far is where the principals, their feelings in Friday notes with regard to same day versus the goal of same day always, but there are times where perhaps it's not appropriate that day. And if you've got policy, you're going to send something out even if you're not fully prepared. So you've seen the comments in the Friday notes from the administrators. If you want to ask specifically a question, I can invite them up. We'll include the frequency in the next Friday notes.
I think they already answered the question, the frequency.
already
My understanding is not very often. So if they feel free to share the numbers, instance of bullying, that
Is
would
there a
be great.
principal that would like to come forward and speak to the question?
I love how they both looked at you.
Concern with the 24 hours or the same day would be a report that happens at, say, like 2 o'clock, right after second recess. And now we have less than an hour to get information to a parent who is going to have a lot of questions, and I'm going to have very little information. And so then it leaves them with worries and me feeling like I have to scramble to try to get something relevant to give that parent. So that's my personal concern with the 24-hour, the end of the school day. I think giving us the end of the second day gives us that time to pause, looking at videos when we can, talking to people that we need to talk to, trying to get the best information possible to give the parent the most information that we can.
And I have a quick question. If Susie comes to you at 2 o'clock after second recess and says, Tommy is bullying me, are you going to throw Susie back in the classroom with Tommy immediately? Or are you going to make some kind of accommodation that next morning while you're investigating?
We are looking immediately into it. And so we start right away, and depending on what exactly has been shared, we're putting things in place to be able to protect the kids, all the kids that are involved. We're already talking to our counselors because they're going to start needing to get involved with working with each of the children, both the victim and the bully. And so there's a lot that goes into it. And quite honestly, it's very time consuming, and having it all done by the end of that first day, even though it's already started on that first day, is not realistic.
Thank you very much. Sure.
Just to help clarify why this is something, so the view is that we're not giving a bunch of information to parents. Like I had talked to Dr. Greiner, it can just be a train of parents and even a set email, because I think it's a very valid concern for administrators, honestly, to get a report at the end of the school day, and you then need to walk out the door and deal with other things in life, and you can't you can't do anything. And so a simple email that says your child has been involved in a bullying incident, we will investigate it and update you. There's nothing that we can share with you. Now, yes, are parents going to potentially reach out and be freaking out? To me, that's an education piece. And to me, what the highest priority is I'm meeting with students that are being bullied. These are not students that are typically coming home and sharing with their parents what they're going through. And even a delay of the next day can be very serious for some of these students. And so to me, if we even have one student that feels they're being bullied and not safe at school, and we are not allowing parents to be a part of that process, by the end of that day, simply sharing, that is where my concern is coming from. That, but wanting to be aware that I don't expect administrators to need to put in tons of time before they tell parents. I don't agree that by the end of the next day, you need to have all this information before you tell parents. Parents just need to be aware, if you're worried about your child, here's the basics that we know, and then we'll keep you updated. So I just wanted to share where I'm coming from, a different perspective, but I do get that it's very complicated and would take lots of training of parents, the reality.
And I respect what you're saying. I know our parents, and in the moment, that has not been enough. And so some of them have just come right after school, like, I want to know what you know. And at that point, there's not a lot that I can share because we just have started that process. So there are difficulties on both ends for that.
So, Mrs. Aros, in the scenario that Mrs. Austin said, where somebody gets potentially bullied on the playground at 1:50 and school lets out at 2:15, at that point, do you even know enough to make a determination about whether or not it was bullying?
No, oftentimes no.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Oh,
Since you are here, just a follow-up question.
I know.
yeah.
I get it.
She accepts.
I keep going like this and I got a lot more.
It's a difficult situation.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
They should buy lunch for you. Yeah, just since you are here, I just wondering, say, right now the state requirement is by the end of next day. And we have some board members' proposals, say, by the end of the current day. So do you think that's reasonable, or maybe you feel comfortable, say, within 24 hours? Say if something happened at 2 o'clock and by tomorrow's 2 o'clock, and at least you do something. You think that's kind of compromise? Are you comfortable with that?
If we have information and we can speak to the parent in that same day, we do. We don't wait till the next day just because we can.
Okay.
But most of the time, it takes a lot of digging into information to get to the right situation and just to know all the details that we need to know to make a good decision.
Yeah, I understand. But do you think 24 hours is kind of a reasonable expectation? So you think you can handle that kind of things in 24 hours?
I think it depends. If it's something that happens on the bus, we have to request bus video footage. And so there are things that add to that time that we need. But I would be most comfortable with the end of the second day to be able to look into all the things that we need to get the right information.
Okay,
Thank you, Mrs.
appreciate it.
Saros.
Thank you.
And are we at a point where I can make a motion to perhaps amend Ms. Mumford's motion?
Oh, I wish you wouldn't.
Well, I just to recommend some slightly different language that might perhaps be a compromise, to say something to the effect of administrators will notify as soon as practicable, but not outside of that next day period.
Before the end of second day?
Yeah, before the end of second
Yeah,
day.
something like that. Yeah, definitely.
David, hold on. I'm calling people, David. Nope.
Those are administrative guidelines, not policy. As soon as possible has no legal definition. Policies are legal. So, and I would expect that that we have wonderful principals and they will do everything they can to notify as soon as possible. But here, we're talking about the legal guidelines for policy.
Hence my compromise language. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get you. But.
Okay. Is there a second
Second poll.
for George's motion? I'm trying to do the rules here.
Yeah, I can second.
You're okay. You're seconding. Okay. And Yue, did you have something to share? I thought I saw your hand. If not, that's fine.
That's okay. So yeah, first, as soon as possible. And second, I really appreciate that if bullying is reported, whether it's true or not, and our teachers, administrators will pay extra attention to those students, make sure that it won't continue, right? So that's what data is worried about. And if that's a practice, I think that's great. So while we do the investigation, we pay attention to those students to make sure that the bully will not continue. Another thing is I remember several years ago, lose track of the time, maybe just last year, when we talk about this issue and we try to differentiate a bully with a conflict. And so I wonder, sometimes kids do use the vocabularies in a mixed way. And so I wonder in schools, when students report a bully, and how to tell whether it's a real bully or it's a conflict. And then in what situation the school needed to report to the parents. So yeah, maybe it's a false alarm to create unnecessary trouble, or maybe it's something serious. And yeah, I myself don't have a clear understanding about this. And so I personally am okay with the current time frame. And if only we do one as soon as possible. Second, pay closer attention to those kids who are involved to make sure the bully won't continue. I personally feel it's okay given those ambiguity sometimes. And yeah, if we make it too tight, maybe we put ourselves in the position that we may easily violate the law or something we set up for ourselves.
Okay, Rachel?
So the specific definition of bullying is defined by state law, and it's in the opening paragraphs of this particular policy in a very specific way that our administrators have to follow. And so this is, as David has pointed out, this is implementation of a law. Our administrators still have to be the great people who want to protect children at all times, want to do what's best for children, and that involves communicating with their parents on any number of subjects, including bullying. So those are administrator management and administrative guidelines and coaching and leadership role of our superintendent and assistant superintendent. So from a legal perspective, I'm just going to say again, we should put in the policy what is legally required and allow our administrators to do their jobs.
Okay.
If that's okay, I appreciate you trying to find a compromise. Just to clarify, I don't feel like that wording is needed because my concern is not that our administrators are not telling parents as soon as possible. I believe they are. That is not a worry that I have or anything. Like I said, is the worry that I have is I don't want a student to come back to school that has dealt with that. So that's why I don't, even though I appreciate it, I don't think it connects to what I was trying to get the point across, just saying.
But if that's the case, should that concern be addressed with more of what happens at the school as opposed to the policy we write today?
So it's about the policy today. So actually a year ago when this came out the first time, state law was that administrators could wait 5 days, and legal counsel recommended that we change it to 3. I opposed it, and as you know, took this all, was involved in the state changing this. I was very involved in that. So my view is still that it should be at the end of the day. I appreciate that state is now making us shorten it even more than we had originally planned.
No, what I mean is, it sounds like your concern is that the student may have to face whoever's bullying them. That sounds less about the reporting period and more about whether or not the student should be allowed to ask for alternative accommodations until the investigation is complete.
So the reality is when a student reports a bullying incident, the majority of time it's a conflict. And so there's no way that the administrators are going to yank them out of a classroom and do things if they feel like the student is safe. This happens frequently in our schools. So my point is, though, if the student is feeling unsafe, the parent should be informed, and that administrators should continue doing what they've been doing the whole time. I just want that little piece is why there's a difference to me.
I'd like to call the question, please.
Okay, thank you. So, oh, you're withdrawing? Okay.
It doesn't sound like it's going to be necessary.
Okay, super. Thank you. In that case, then we're going to return to the previous issue, which is Dacia's motion that before the end of the next day will be changed to on the same calendar day. Is there any further discussion on that? You called the question on that too. Okay. In that case, let's go ahead and do the vote. Okay. We're voting on your motion. Wait, what? Shoot, sorry. Okay. Is there, do I need a second on that? I don't, right? No, I do. Okay, who seconds that? Good God. Yeah. Okay, thank you, George. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Okay, we're voting on whether or not we're calling the question. Cool. One more. There we go. Okay. In that case, do we move back to the original, or do we move back to Dacia's motion? Okay, we're moving back to Dacia's motion, which is to change the word next to calendar. And we've called the question, so I need to do buttons again. There we go. Okay, that one fails 1 to 6. And then we move back up. Now, does your call the question also affect the whole policy, or do we move on to the next?
That's the last thing.
change? That's the last thing. Okay, so I need a motion from you, Dacia, about your next adjustment.
Okay, so the motion is in the paragraph about, yes. Sorry, the old one that was put on the website, it was different than the one today, so, I think it's still the intervention one. Where's the one that talks
That
about
one
the
right there,
parents?
the intervention and responses paragraph, and the board recommend.
Yeah, which one?
Oh, the
Intervention
transferring
response
someone
box
to another.
paragraph.
Where we are, okay.
Okay, there I am.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so currently the policy says that we will be transferring a student to another school within the corporation. Legal counsel actually came back to the request to move that and said that we don't need to have that in here because it just is confusing, and so we can take that out. So I make a motion to remove the part that says another school within the corporation. Legal counsel says we have to keep the part that talks about prioritizing the safety of the victim. That's required to be in there. But they said we do not have to have the part about another school within the corporation, which simplifies it so that, since we can't do that anyways.
This is the one.
No, this is right.
We don't, it's not.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so you want the language about another school removed because we do not have another school to move them to.
And
Okay,
legal counsel had agreed with that.
right. And is there a second? Okay. And is there any discussion about that?
I think we, policy committee talk about that, and then Anna has some suggestions regarding the change.
Up above?
I think we have recommendation removed, including transfer the bully or target, the whole sentence that's marked over here. Is that our policy committee's recommendation? I remember that's our recommendation.
Transferring the bullet, yeah, it's in there. It's still in your.
Yeah, it says it.
paragraph. So,
It's in red and blue paragraphs. I wonder if that's what it is.
oh, it got removed from one but not the other. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we go ahead and vote on that since it got moved in one place but not the right place or not the other place?
It should be, yeah, it should be removed from.
It should be removed. Okay, let's go ahead and start the vote to remove the part about other schools we don't have. All righty. 7-0, okay, cool. We will go ahead and remove that. And now, is there any other change to this policy that we need to vote on?
Not for me.
Great. Okay, so now we're going to move back up to the overall policy number 220C, 200, and we're voting on it as amended.
Yes, please.
Okay. And we're done discussing, right? Okay, all right, here comes the vote as amended.
This one has taken a full year, 12 months.
Yeah, this is a biggie. Okay, that passes 6-1. I will stop that so we can see things. And now we are moving on to C225, parental access to instructional material and surveys.
So on this one, I would ask for, if it passes, to rescind policy 2223.
2223,
Correct.
and presented as presented by
Policy committee. yeah.
policy committee. Okay, are there any adjustments to this one that need to be discussed?
So
Okay.
On this one, on this one, there is recommended language from legal counsel in red at the bottom, but in the middle section, policy committee recommends adopting the policy as presented by legal. And so I'll make that motion. We had a board member recommendation on that. So, but policy committee agreed to ask the board to vote on this one as presented with legal edits.
Okay, and you second, Lawrence? Okay, Daisha, do you want to pull that, or are you going to move? I'm sorry? This is great. You like it? Okay, cool. Any other discussion? No. All right, I will pull the question up, and this is as presented by legal, policy 2225, and rescinding 2223. Okay, great. 7-0.
Next, we have C300.
Oh, that's a good one. All right. C300 is programs for students with disabilities and least restrictive environment.
And the rescission is policy 2460.02.
2460.02.
On this policy, you can see at the bottom that the policy committee reviewed and recommends adopting the policy as presented by legal. There was a board member recommendation at the bottom to add some legal codes, but these are correctly addressed in other areas, so it's not necessary.
Okay, is there a second? Thank you, Lawrence. Is there a motion to change anything? Great. Any discussion? Cool. Okay, let's go ahead and call the vote on this as presented by legal and to rescind 2460.02. Okay, that is a 7-0. All right, swell. The next one is C350, student discipline. Go ahead, Rachel.
So the rescission on this one, there are quite a few. 5500, 5520, 5600, 5610.02, and 5611. In this, we really just made one revision, and that was to clarify that corporal punishment is not an acceptable means of discipline in West Lafayette schools.
I appreciate
I would make a
that.
motion that we are going to approve this policy with that amendment.
No more paddling, Margaret. Is there?
Yeah, no.
I like it. Are you seconding, David?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
What's that?
So moving on to discussion. since I
Yes,
seconded it.
go ahead.
Our purpose of putting this in here is because corporal punishment is still legal in Indiana and many other states, and it is not acceptable.
I agree with you. I still remember the name, full name, and what she looked like, the girl that got paddled in tech in 6th grade. So, but I never broke the rules again. Yes, Yui.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I wonder what's the definition for corporal punishment? Will running an extra
I'm sorry, I
mile, will running an extra mile consider as corporal punishment? I'm just, it's a vocabulary understanding issue. So what's that considered as?
Typically-
Beaten up is,
Yeah,
but
it's
I mean,
literally that. Typical, under these circumstances, corporal means like physically hitting.
hitting, okay,
Yeah.
but running
and-
an extra mile is not.
And I don't know if this is still the case, but in Indiana, there actually was a proscribed paddle size.
And they had holes. The 80s were wild. Okay, so not running. This is actually striking a
Running
child.
those,
Yeah, but this
those
isn't-
extra exercise is not
Yeah, this
considered
isn't
as
like
this.
2-a-day football practice. This is
Hitting a kid.
administrators or counselors physically hitting a
Oh, okay.
student.
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Purposes of-
then that's good. I mean, just want to make sure.
Okay, super. Anyone else have anything to say? Cool. I will go ahead and start the vote to approve this with the corporal punishment out and rescinding all of the ones we talked about, and that passes 7-0. All right. Stop, close. Then we go to C400, use of restraint and seclusion with students.
The policies to rescind on this one are 5630, 5630.01. We had recommended language proposed by a board member. We've incorporated that. It's been reviewed by legal counsel, and the policy committee recommends that the additional text be added. That's
The
my
blue
motion.
text or the green text or both?
So the policy committee recommends the additional text be approved, and so the blue text is that additional text.
Okay, so approve with blue text. Okay, and is there a second? Thanks, Lawrence. And any discussion on this one? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the buttons. Please go ahead and vote on approving this one with the blue text and rescinding 5630 and 50. Okay. That passes. And the next one is C450, drug prevention.
So C450 drug prevention, the policies to rescind are 5530 and 5531. We had a lot of conversation about this one, a lot of input from our administrators. In this, it's the recommendation of policy committee and legal that we eliminate drug testing from our practice and focus instead on education and also soft skills that our educators use in identifying children who are at risk. So the motion is that we approve policy C450 for drug prevention, removing drug testing with the edits as noted in red. Oh, yeah, the rescission is 5530 and 5531. Yeah.
And is there a second, David? Thank you. And any other discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on as presented. Did I not do it again? There we go. Okay, that's 7. All righty. Next one is C500, school trips and privately sponsored activities, etc.
So the rescission on this is policy 2340. Working through this at the beginning, paragraph 1, a board member recommended language in blue, and the committee recommends that. Removing the red strikeout section. Further down, the policy committee does not recommend the text in blue. The board member is redundant and not necessary to this policy. And then finally, at the end, a board member has recommended language. Then instead of penalized, we use the responsible, more positive language. And the policy committee recommends that text in blue.
Okay, is there a second?
Correct.
Okay, so it's with the first, without the second, with the strikeout in red, and with the third suggestion. Is there any discussion? No, okay, super. We really found our stride, y'all. Here we are, 7-0. Okay, and the last one.
Last one.
C525, medical needs at school.
Okay, C525, there are a lot of rescissions, so I'm going to rattle these off and they'll be in the record. Medical needs at school, this would rescind 2413, 2414, 5310, 5320, 5330, 5330.01, 5330.02, 5335, 5340, 5340.02, 8451, 8452, 8453.01. Specifically, this deals with medical needs at school. This is, legal counsel has offered recommendation And the policy committee recommends that we accept this policy as presented by legal.
Okay, is there a second? And any discussion? Any other motions? Okay. Let's go ahead and vote on what Rachel said. And that is 7. Okay, y'all. Thank you. It's exciting to get through that many. I deeply appreciate the work of the policy committee. I have no idea how you're keeping track of all this, and I am extremely impressed. And if you want to come over and help me with my closets, that'd be cool. All right, the policies we're going to first reading. I'm just going to reference them by number because I don't want to be here all night. Okay, you got it. So we're taking that out.
Yes, please.
Okay, we are removing D250 on the agenda. So the policies we are first reading are C125, D100, D125, D150, D200, D225, D275, D300, D325, D350, D375, D400, D425, D450, D475, D500, D550, E100, E125, E150, E175, E200, and E225. I'd like to note that I am not trying to torture the policy committee. I am assigning these on their request, and this was not my idea. And if we finish them all, I'll buy y'all ice cream after our next meeting.
Please
They
note
can-
that in the minutes.
Yeah, we'll get that in there.
So Amy, let
Yes,
me just
ma'am.
say this to you, that as we get further along in these policies, a lot of them are more brief.
Yes.
And they are more legal code based, and so they aren't quite as bad as they look.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'll still buy you ice cream because you'll deserve it if we get through all that. Lawrence?
Yeah, we are kind of a little bit aggressive, but I think another thing I would mention is we have legal counsel some update for the A100 and B100. So probably we will discuss that on the policy committees.
Okay, and we'll bring
meetings.
them on
And-
back?
Yeah, and then whatever we finish, we can present for second readings.
Okay, so
And
that
maybe
was
tomorrow
A
we
and
can,
B 100 both? A and B 100 are also in the first reading again?
So what I would ask you to assign to us is policies that have been returned to us because of legislative change.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay, yeah.
Maybe we should just wait until like February on those because they might change again. No, I'm kidding. All right, and all of those may be found on the website under board-meetings and info-board documents. And if you have trouble, please get in touch. Having concluded the policies, Dr. Greiner, would you like to give your report?
I would love to give my report, Mrs. Austin. Thank you. So I wanted to take one more opportunity to thank everyone again who was involved in the negotiations process during this more challenging time, especially the teachers that were involved, our admin team that were involved, and Dr. Yen was at every one of those as well, so thank you. We understand that it was not the ideal situation for bargaining, and again recognize the disappointment in the overall outcome when we compare it to previous years. Please know that we'll remain committed to preserving resources and maintaining a strong focus on providing competitive wages for our teachers. We deeply value and respect the passion, expertise, and unwavering commitment that our teachers bring to ensuring high-quality learning experiences for our students every day. I also want to share that I had the honor of attending the teachers luncheon for retired teachers on October 28th, where I sat beside retired teacher Ruth Borden. This is important because it speaks to our teachers current and past. Ruth and I spoke about teaching as being a calling. And I shared that two of my own children felt that calling. One is teaching in his second year. The other one, she's studying to be an elementary teacher at Purdue. And as we talked, Ruth started talking about what she did to get into Westside. She paused and reflected, and she said, I had to interview with the principal, and then I had to interview with the assistant superintendent, and then I had to interview with the superintendent. And she paused and she looked at me and she said, Dr. Greiner, I am so lucky that I got that job and that I got to teach in this amazing community over so many years. Her words remind me of the deep pride and commitment that define our Westside teachers, past and present. and the exceptional caliber of our educators that make this district how special it is today when you bring our committed parents together, sending their amazing students to school that are prepared to learn, and then that pride that our teachers hold. It just makes this place very special. And so I wanted to share that, and I wanted to share I'm grateful.
And Michelle, would you go ahead?
Yes, I'd like to ask Mrs. Kronk, she was pointing at me. Would you please report on the accounts payable and fund report?
Yeah, sure. Claims for the period of October 1st through November 4th total $4,092,378, including regular corporation expenses and the Wabash Valley Education Center expenses. Of this amount, $2,772,333 were paid towards wages, salaries, and benefits. I've provided the final fund report for September 2025 in your board packets. Total cash on hand in all funds was $27,232,917. The education fund had a cash balance of $7,314,208. Cash flow through the month of September, showing the flow of revenue and expenses for the education referendum and operations fund, is also included.
No volume. Okay, the last item is our board reports. Yue, would you like to go ahead and go first?
The class meeting will be next week, and George will attend it, right? George will attend it for me because.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot. You're right. George, would you like to tell us?
No, the meeting will be next week.
Oh, for heaven's
Yeah,
sake.
so.
That's true.
Yeah, we haven't met yet.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Rachel, go ahead.
So I'm reporting tonight for the West Lafayette Schools Ed Foundation. When it became clear in late October that SNAP benefits would not be distributed in November, a note was sent to West Lafayette families enrolled in the free and reduced lunch program, inviting them to register for the backpack program. Families responded, and the volunteers went from packing 27 bags of food to 56 bags of food weekly. This represents 48 families, 83 WLCSC students, and provides food to not only our students, but their non-school age siblings and parents and guardians. WLSCF made an appeal for donations to the backpack program in their October e-news, and donors responded with over $3,000 in donations. This will help WLSCF to purchase additional food for the remainder of the year, either through food finders or local stores. Just so you all know, they have to give their numbers to food finders in August for the whole semester. So they have to purchase additional food from other avenues than they do typically. Along with this, and I will just tell you that the backpack program needs additional financial support. And so anybody who's listening to this and has capacity to do that, just keep in mind that if they want to donate food items, it is very helpful if they donate 56 of the same item so that can be equitable. Cash donations are also extremely helpful, and anybody who would like to make those could contact Wendy Eiler. Along with this, there was a thoughtful family in our school community who expressed concern for students who may have difficulty paying for the fees for AP exams. This family has offered a matching gift up to $1,000 to cover the AP exam fees for West Lafayette students who are enrolled in the free and reduced lunch program. So this amounts to approximately $2,000. They have already received $500 towards the matching gift challenge and will be highlighting this challenge on Giving Tuesday. This is part of the Foundation's new school enrichment fund to assist students with AP exam fees and school field trips. If you have questions about that, or as I said, the backpack program, please contact Wendy. As Dr. Greiner mentioned, the Foundation also did host the West Lafayette retirees for lunch at the Whitaker Inn. There were 43 retirees in attendance, and they represented hundreds of years of service to our schools. Chase Newsom and Trent Johnson of MBNB Wealth Management is sponsored this year's luncheon. Again, I want to highlight in general, this is part of the beautiful work that the Foundation does in our community, and not all schools have the benefit of an active and vibrant foundation to support the work of the schools that's needed. And so I really want to express my gratitude to Wendy and everybody on the foundation who really lends their talents and also their personal resources to support kids in our community who need them. That's my report, and I don't have anything from the ISBA.
Thank you very much.
May I ask a question? So
Quickly.
yeah, quickly. I remember our district covers the AP exam from last year. I remember that several teachers, students came to petition that. Then Michelle said, yes, we will cover it. Is that the case?
We said that we would cover it as long as cash allowed. We are trying to conserve cash. And so we are now back to where we were.
Oh, I see. Thank you for the
I was
clarification.
gonna say, I know I paid for exam fees.
Thank
Can
you.
validate.
Thank you both. David?
It was a late meeting at Parks and Rec. Yeah, as of the last meeting, there's still some positions. They're hiring for the new AmeriCorps grant, which is wonderful, although that was a few weeks ago. They may be filled. I'm not 100% certain yet. They're also in the process of developing a food truck policy for some of the parks so that there can be more food trucks. And I use the term truck very lightly because there's actually, what initiated this is a community member who has a pizza oven bike, which is super cool. And I heard the pizza is really good. But they're developing a policy to kind of streamline that process so that it can be fair and equitable for allowing food trucks in certain parks so that they don't interfere with family parking and things like that.
Okay, cool. But if you want breadsticks, you have to talk to the guy on the unicycle. Daisha?
The Public Schools Foundation has their fall grant reception on Tuesday, the 18th, from 5 to 6:30 at the new TSC Administrative Building. They didn't receive any applications from our school district this round, but they did grant one award to GLCA, which encompasses our students. And it's to launch Your Future Career Fair, which I think will really be awesome. So that's all for their update.
Great. Lawrence?
Yeah, I attend community meeting, so-called community meeting on October 20th. And we have the local stakeholders, the mayor come here, all schools, parent council, they have represent there. And also school first lady's office, they have people in there. And on that meeting, Dr. Greiner share our school's situation, especially financial challenge we are facing. And I think that's good information sharing with local stakeholders. So I truly appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. George? You're going to warm up for the legislative session in a couple months, right?
Yeah, so the federal government is still shut down, although there was a vote in the Senate to reopen. That will depend on what happens in the House next. The Indiana legislature will convene a session in December to focus on whether or not to do mid-cycle redistricting to follow the wishes of Donald Trump. That is a perfect opportunity for people to flex their telephone fingers and call their representatives and senators and let them know how they feel about that. That is supposed to be the only thing going on in that session, but of course, they always reserve the right to cover other things even before the next general session in the spring.
Okay, thank you. And the Redevelopment Commission project updates include the Public Safety Center, which is now a big hole for the parking structure, and there was a delay because of the soil, and they'll hopefully be moving forward already because this was a couple weeks ago. The demolition is ongoing for the basement. The Fire Station 3 on Cal Bearers layout is being modified. And the next exciting community improvement will be the South Street Plaza, which is that goofy triangle parking lot that's in front of Vienna. And Randy's already gone. He likes it there. Anyway, they're going to remove that parking between Chase Bank and those businesses along that road and make it a pedestrian foot traffic plaza instead of a parking lot everybody hates. So it's been discussed for a long time, and the plan is anticipated in December after public input. And board teacher discussion was canceled last month. And that concludes my report. Our next meeting will be December 8th at 5 o'clock if we need a work session, and at 6 if we do not. And I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. If you're traveling or if you have college students traveling, I hope everything goes safely and smoothly and without weather. And school will resume on December 1st. So next I need a motion to, go ahead. Oh, was that you motioning to
Motion to
adjourn?
adjourn.
Great, thank you. Any second. And we're adjourned.